Hey ho, gamerinos, and welcome back to Golden Truths, an Umineko podcast, a podcast about Umineko, where we will discuss Ryukishi 07's famous visual novel series, Umineko no Naku Koroni. I am Jennifer Booher, your host and witch of communication, joined, as ever, by Annabelle Barsky.
Hi, I love Magi Madoka Magica Rebellion story.
It's a different magic. Isabelle Boyer.
Everyone calls me Izzy, and I'm less prepared than usual.
I think, this is going to be a fun episode. Matthew Winter.
Declare war on England.
And our special new guest, Caelum O'Leary Codair. I think I've said that right.
You did say it correctly.
Haha. Hi, what's up? How are you? Who
I'm
are you?
pretty good. I was just posting about Irish electoral politics for like an hour in the podcast chat, so I'm sure everyone's really excited to record with me now.
Mm-hmm. And Irish electoral politics actually deeply integral to the Rakenjima problem,
Yes.
as we say.
As we all know.
Caelum, I made everyone else do this in the first episode, so now I'm going to make you do it. What's your history with visual novels, mystery novels, and other things of that ilk?
I have commitment issues. So I love visual novels. I love thinking about them. I read half of Fate Stay Night, like one route of Tsukihime. Most notably, I read 4 episodes of Umineko as the fan translation released over a decade ago, and then I dropped it, and I didn't return to it until about 2 months ago.
Right. So you're in the unique position here of knowing some stuff, but not all of the stuff, which I think is a very spicy ingredient to our whole concoction here. Very excited.
Yeah, I know some things.
I don't know anything about Fate Stay Night. It's a gotcha now.
Artorias Trans.
Astolfo? Is that one from Fate?
That's in Fate. That's the other one. That's the anime.
Okay.
Ignorant.
Well, very high energy start, everyone.
This episode really happens.
I believe in fate.
Okay, well, look, let's enter the seagull transition and get right into the episode. Okay.
Do you want us to make seagull noises?
No, the seagull noises are happening right now. Your voice is being cut out and replaced with seagull noises. You don't exist.
The whole point is that the seagulls weren't crying.
Well, yeah, but when the seagulls cry, they record a podcast about it. That's what they say, like in the VN. I don't know.
They're
if
always saying that. You're right.
All right, let's play that intro a second time, even louder.
Oh my god, stop. Banquet of the Golden Witch, released originally on August 17th, 2008 at Comiket 74, and say it with me, everyone, released officially worldwide
July 8th,
2016 as a part of the full Question Arcs release. Thank you. Banquet puts Beatrice's game with Battlers center stage. Beatrice's 2 near victories allow new magical pieces to manifest on the game board, including the Koi demon butler Ronove and Beatrice's predecessor, the previous Golden Witch Virgilia, both of whom help and hinder Battlers' attempts to deny their lady. Battler learns about Beatrice's past, of her days captured by Kinzo and sealed in a homunculus, trapped on Rakenjima in the hidden mansion Kuwadorian. On the game board, Eva is able to solve the riddle of the epitaph with the help of a younger, more determined self she keeps in the depths of her heart, allowing Eva to find the hidden gold and succeed the Ushiramiya family headship, and allowing her younger self to succeed Beatrice as Eva Beatrice, the new golden and endless witch. When Eva Beatrice's ritual killings prove too cruel for Battler to stomach, Beatrice finds herself at a crossroads between supporting her sadistic successor and losing her place as Battler's opponent. Beatrice undergoes a compelling and not at all fake redemption arc, discovering the true nature of magic and, ultimately, defeating Eva Beatrice by fully denying the existence of magic on the game board and revealing Eva Ushiramiya as the game's culprit. But before Battler, wholly taken in by the witch's spectacle, can fully ratify Beatrice as a witch, a mysterious red-headed girl bursts into the Golden Land and reveals Beatrice's deceit in the nick of time. In the epilogues, the mysterious red-headed girl is revealed to be Angie Ushiramiya, Kyrie's daughter and Battler's half-sister, the sole survivor of the Ushiramiya family, who has been summoned from the future by Berncastle to crush Beatrice's game once and for all. What did everybody think about Banquet?
This was fucking crushing to the human
good.
soul.
It was really good and destroyed me.
I'm shaking my hands above my head. Yes, yes.
I could not handle it. I died.
If we have anybody who's a fan of this at all, just please do us a favor and draw Beatrice as the sickos guy.
Yes, our one listener, please, God.
We brought our one listener onto the podcast!
Damn, fuck, what are we gonna do? This episode is kind of, or at least, well, in the past, when I was, like, even semi-plugged into something I consider the Umineko fandom, this episode was kind of infamous for Beato's trick that she pulls in
It's
it.
a shitty trick.
It's a wonderful trick. It's so
a bad
good.
trick.
I mean,
Psych is a bad trick.
It's terrible,
Psych.
but it's great. Oh,
The trick hurts, but it's not the true trick.
Well, we'll talk about the trick. There's lots of time to talk about Beato's trick.
Stop saying that.
That's what it is.
Shut up.
Beato's trick.
Grace is no longer here to back you up on that goof.
It's not a goof. The goof is that we just refuse to pronounce the actually very clear... It's like looking at Gurren Lagann and be like, yeah, that guy's name is Shimon. No, it's fucking Simon.
His name is not... They pronounce it Simone in the fucking dub.
Yeah, it's Simone. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
But this is Beatrice.
Look, Beatrice, we say Beatrice. You do not say Beato.
I do say
No,
Beato.
I do say
I know
Beato,
it's
I'm
wrong,
sorry.
but I
You
do say
motherfuckers.
Beato. I am just...
Why would a nickname
happy to be
take as long
wrong.
to say as the full name?
It does... Beato does not take as long to say as Beato Ricci.
No,
Oh
Beato
my
takes as long to
God.
say as Beatrice. I hate you!
This isn't even important.
Wait,
It's
Jen, what was
definitely
your
important.
feelings on this chapter originally reading it?
Oh,
you had
right,
mentioned it's
so-
one you were particularly fond of on a
Yeah,
personal
so
level.
I read Umineko as a teen, closer to when all this stuff was coming out, and this episode, I was fully drawn in by this episode because it is maybe the most roller coaster that Umineko has been so far. All of the like crazy magic battles and like the logic battles are more insane and twisted than they've ever been. And of course, Beato's trick is horrible and disgusting and beautiful. It's the sort of thing that, you know, back in the day, I was fully on board. I hated Beatrice's guts after this episode, and I wanted to see Battler crush her in spectacular fashion. You know, as a like 14-year-old kid with certain ideas about logic and being right and all of that stuff. For a while, I think I would have called this my favorite episode. I don't think that's true now, but I still have a very, very healthy appreciation for what goes on in it. It's just,
I
ooh.
want to say, for my money, the spectacle, the like aesthetic spectacle of this episode was absolutely chef's kiss, including the roller coaster of the real and fake emotional journeys that people went on and all the things going on. I feel like the timing of sprites and stuff, the on rails timing of sprite reactions, the big sprites. When you get big Virgilia and big Beatrice, the way at the very end when it's revealed that Eva's the culprit, it flashes like this like dead-eyed, evil,
Yeah.
crazed
Oh, God,
looking
that moment's
sprite
so
that you
good.
only see for 1 second. I couldn't even catch a screenshot of it. I was so shocked. The frickin' like 30 bonus songs that they made for this, the frickin' Psytrance soundtrack that they added, is so satisfying from that perspective. From a story perspective, I'm so crushed.
I definitely feel like episode 3 of the Umineko so far is the one that best sells it as something that can only be properly conveyed as the specific sound novel format that it is for essentially everything you've just said.
Yeah, it's something we've been talking about a little in the past, but this time it really it's like its own version of like storyboard fan animations you see on YouTube, you know, except it's for its own thing. So it's very satisfying to see it happen this way, and there should be more of these, and they should not be about saying psych.
Okay, but I want to know
Does everyone like Beatrice, or does everyone hate Beatrice?
I love Beatrice. I love her horrible, nasty little trick. It's I think it's horrible, but I love it.
This isn't even a joke. I really think Beatrice is one of the best characters like ever put into fiction, and the climax of this episode is a large part of that.
She's great. Yeah, like obviously we all have a lot of feelings about Beato's trick, and we will get into Beato's trick. But let's rewind time back to the start of the episode, or near the start of the episode, and run through this thing properly. First off, it feels like it's important to note we get a whole bunch of new characters here. So just to talk through them very quickly, first we get Ronove.
Ron.
Who I thought, I will admit to what you were saying earlier, Matt, I had been pronouncing it Ronove, like literally until a couple weeks ago when I started reading episode 3 with the voice acting, and they pronounce it Ronove very specifically. So, but we get him. He's great.
Are you seriously coming at me and leveling me going, you know what, Matt? I used to be wrong too.
I'm just here. You know what I care about is truth and reality. Okay,
Oh my
which is
God.
why I'm here on the side of witches, telling you his name is Ronove.
I was already pronouncing it like that. Like,
I was also pronouncing
me
it like
too.
that.
Okay, good.
I was definitely a Ronov until I realized that it's actually kind of important that his name is 3 syllables long.
Yeah,
What?
totally.
For what reasons?
Well, let's, we should go ahead and get this out of the way. Does anyone have any kind of, like, general feelings about Ronove? Like, he's cool. I like that guy.
I liked him a lot. I thought he was
He's the
fun.
horniest character so
Yes,
far.
I want to say
Somehow.
thank God we finally have just a fucking gay-ass twink out there. There's been all sorts of posturing and fiddling around with gender and sexuality, and the second I met him, I was like, I love this fucking horrible, shady gay disaster, definitely.
Wearing his assless butler chaps.
God, as Beatrice says when he shows up, it's like, you two are getting along well, as expected of two of the members of the same sex. It's like, all right, man.
Beato's like, alright, gay boys. And she's right.
That part was fun, but I never liked Battler's responses to those kinds of things.
No, of course, but he's posturing, you know, he's hashtag a masculine man, and that's why it's so delightful for him to get routed every second of this fucking
Yeah,
novel.
totally. Yeah. Gender really takes a center stage in this episode in a way that, like, familial abuse took a main stage in the last episode. All of the little asides and remarks about gender, and certainly everything that Ava deals with, which we'll get into, words of power of this podcast across every episode, which we will get into. Well, it's important that Renove's name is 3 syllables, because has everyone taken a gander at the character page?
Briefly.
I did at one point in time.
I finished this last night at 2 a.m. I didn't have enough time.
Does anyone else know where I'm going with this? Do you want to take this the rest of the way?
I mean, you should see what Genji's last name is.
Mm-hmm.
It's I mentioned this to Cabs forever ago. Genji's last name is Renou.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Ronove.
Ronoe with a U instead of a V. Which is important when we consider the next character that we meet, Virgilia, is literally born out of Kumasawa.
Oh my god, so that's real! I'm realizing this on the podcast in real time. I'm rethinking everything.
Oh my god.
no.
Is Kumasawa's first name like Virginia?
Her name is Chio. I don't think that translates to virgin, but fuck, what do I know?
Okay, I was pronouncing it Virgilia, like an H sound for the G. That's not right?
No,
It's
I think
Virgilia.
it's like after Virgil, you know, the Aeneid and all that.
So yeah, to spell that out, Virgil and Beatrice are both characters in Dante's Divine Comedy, where Virgil leads Dante through hell and like up through Mount Purgatory, I think, and then Beatrice takes him up into heaven, if I'm remembering that right. That Wikipedia page that I read, and not actually the whole Divine Comedy. So there's there's something happening
Virgilia
there.
says something to that effect when she picks her name. She's like, "Oh yeah, I'll be your guide through this hell," something like that. I don't remember exactly what. I've got the screenshot somewhere, but she makes it pretty heavy-handed. Yeah.
And I know you, yeah, and I know
Please,
you
I
have
have
some...
we don't. I don't know if we get into this now or later, but I feel like she is so at the center of you know what? I'll get into her when we talk about the trick, because
For
that
sure.
was the most shocking part of this whole arc for me, was one line during the trick that blew my ass clean off. So we'll get there. But
Okay, for sure.
I'm watching you, you sweet, sweet MILF. I'm watching you.
Well, Virgilia is really important because she teaches Battler like how to play the game. Like Renove helps Battler out here and there by like offering some kind of unsolicited red truth here and there, but Virgilia literally is like, hey, have you heard about the notion of the superposition of truths, and allows Battler to stand any kind of chance against Beatrice. She's cool.
I want to develop an old goof. Now with this information, Volgin is Virgilia.
Okay.
Just wanted to put it out
Pass
there.
the mantle, like the mantle of the Golden Witch, the mantle of Metal Gear Solid 3 joke has been passed from Kumasala to Virgilia.
She's finally free.
She's
Wouldn't
finally
that make
free.
Virgilia the man on fire then?
Let's not. This is an Umineko podcast. This is not a Metal Gear podcast. We cannot get into it. Oh my god.
We can do both.
We also, maybe the weirdest characters to be introduced this episode are the, Chiester sisters?
Yeah, Chiester.
That's how I was saying it.
In Japanese, it's pronounced like Siesta, which, like, in early translations, they were actually, their name was translated as the Siesta sisters, like, like taking a siesta. But no, they're the Chiester sisters.
Bugs Bunny and whatever the other one is supposed to be.
Yeah, trans Bugs Bunny and like trans Bunny Porky Pig. Is that
Say like Lola
Just
Bunny.
Interesting, Jen.
Lola in
Explain
the
that.
dumpster.
well, Lola? She's okay. This isn't a Looney Tunes podcast either. We have to talk about Umineko at some point. They are
Anyway, these characters suck.
they kind of exist, and they exist to be like cool new furniture that supplant the stakes of purgatory from the last game.
And the blue one is gay for Lucifer.
Yeah, there's a lot of the weird sexual undertones don't ever really go away in Umineko. You can take any two characters and say there's some kind of particular tension between them, and it's a
And
choice.
they're mostly related.
It's a choice.
It's better not to.
And of course, our new character who, again, I guess we'll really, oh fuck me, we're going to really get into later is Ava Beatrice, or Avatrice, our cool
Boo.
new witch, who
Boo.
everyone hates.
Cool new witch who doesn't even exist.
I didn't
even
vote
in
for
witch
this witch.
rules.
She makes that George Costanza face.
This isn't a
Does
Seinfeld
she?
podcast.
She kind of do that? I guess so. I'm playing
She has
with
the bat and everything.
Oh my god. Oh, if only you'd just shut up and die.
Love you too, Kebs.
That hurts.
That's her catchphrase. That's what she says.
Yeah, but then you said it to
Convenient.
us.
So those are our new additions to the cast, and but to get into the episode proper, we learn a lot about Beatrice in this one. About Beatrice, both like our Beatrice, the Beatrice we know, the Beatrice we love, the Beatrice we cherish, the Beatrice we tuck into bed and feed warm milk at night, the Beatrice we praise and exalt, but also Beatrice, like the concept of someone being a Beatrice. Beatrice as like this title that's passed down through the ages.
Dubiously true.
Well, yeah, but Virgilia was still the first Beatrice.
I think.
Is that true?
Yes, it's true. It's said in one of the
Yeah, that's what the
tips at
character
end,
page said.
that
okay.
Virgilia is the first person to be named Beatrice who passed down the name when she gave the golden magic to current Beatrice, or I guess
Okay.
Beato.
Oh, so there were only 4 Beatrices.
Yes, but
So
Endless
far.
Magic is old, but Beatrice as a name is new.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it says a whole lot about the dynamics of every single member of the Oshiromiya family, that one of them straight up says that their father was keeping a woman captive on an island for at least 20 years, and none of them are particularly surprised about it.
Yeah, I would put it past him.
Well, he's Kinzo.
We all suspected it, actually.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah,
oh yeah.
I've been suspecting it the whole time, you fucks.
And then one of them just pops out and goes, "Oh yeah, I killed her."
That's the good trick. That's the trick.
We learned that, according to our special, beautiful, wonderful Beatrice, that once her spirit was trapped in a homunculus, that Kinzo had created and kept squirreled away at this hidden mansion on the other side, or like in the forest of Rakenjima, called Kuadorian, where she was basically like, she was trapped, like literally, like she was lived a whole life and wasn't allowed to go out. Apparently, like, didn't really ever see anyone besides Kinzo until as a child, Rosa pops up, whirls her way in there, and of course ends up leading to this Beatrice's death, which is fun and normal.
Yeah.
It was the least surprising thing to happen. Yeah.
You know.
You want to climb a rock wall wearing a ball gown?
Great idea, Rosa.
Rosa was like 10, maybe 13, something like that.
I did the math at some point, I forgot, but she's like 11, maybe. I think she said she was in middle school.
I was so fascinated by this deluge of finally some amount of lore and backstory, freaking exposition about the greater narrative, because that's what I've been so curious about. But also, it feels like it's from a different book as the rest of this novel, because Rosa tells them this, and they're all like, ooh, that's weird. All right, anyway, let's move on. And then Beatrice becomes real, and it's never brought up again by anyone.
Well, the Beatrice dying is important because in the meta world, Beatrice uses this story as a way to deny Battler's theory of the 19th person. She fully like does away with that notion by saying, like, one, showing, hey, yeah, I was on this island and I super ate it and died. And then, you know, she comes out afterwards and says in red, there are no more than 18 people on Rakenjima, which is a wonderful move to use your own death as proof that you don't exist and are committing murder.
She didn't say that she died in red. Ugh, see, we don't even know if that's real. That's going to be my refrain this whole episode. We don't even know if that's real.
Well, that's true. So I want to take that, and I want to point us back towards after Beatrice kind of basically pours her heart out and says, yeah, Battler, you know, I was like trapped by this old man in a mansion and not allowed to go out anywhere, and basically lived a half-life for 20 years. And Battler goes, yeah, right. And Beatrice fucks off. Renove tells Battler in red that, one, Kuadorian does exist.
Yes.
Two, that Beatrice and Kinzo did have a conversation, like, quote-unquote, like this, at this time. And he says in red that this is the, like, Rakenjima of 1967. So if you still trust in the red truth after all of this.
No, I do. That's... See, that's all pretty good. And at that time, I remember Beatrice, it's the first time we get to see pouty Beatrice. And she pouts and fucks off because she's so sad. And I was like, oh, Beatrice, my magic loving heart is with you. Of course, I believe your beautiful story. But I clean forgot about all that red text supporting this claim by the end because I was so pissed off at her. So thank you for reminding me.
Yeah,
Since we're talking about the red truths, I want to come out and say I'm sorry that last time I pretty much put up a big wall and refused to even think about the text because it pretty much pissed me off.
You were role-playing. You were our battler for that one. We got out the collar.
I was battler for that one. I'm back on board. We have to agree that the red truths are even a little important, or else we don't get anywhere. Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. Well, a big question about that this episode raises, in terms of the game at least, I wonder how present it is thematically, but maybe that's something we'll find out as we talk about it. A big question is, like, what can you trust? And it's something that was happening in episode 2, you know, but in episode 2 where it was happening about the nature of selfhood, you know, is canon furniture, or does canon want to be more than furniture, like, you know, all of that stuff. Here it happens in the sense of the game, in the sense of, well, given a certain victory condition, you can achieve victory in a lot of different ways. And what does it mean for that victory to be achieved? Are you winning if you're lying to the other person? Ooh,
that is such a good question. No.
Well, to talk a little bit about it, I think we should talk about Beatrice's, like, journey she goes on through this book, for kind of the mid to latter part of it, even though some or all of it is a lie, where she, Battler basically calls her out for, like, running these really cruel games, and she tries to foist the blame off. Beatrice tries to foist the blame off onto someone else, which is a funny little reversal. She tries to foist the blame off onto Ava Beatrice, and Battler says, nuh-uh, like, you still you did all those fucked up things to my family last time. Like, I can understand that you need to kill people because of the nature of the game, but that you do it cruelly is unforgivable. And Battler rejects Beatrice as his opponent in this game, and Beatrice, like, goes on this little what is presented to us as a soul-searching journey to, like, discover the meaning of true magic and basically be accepted by Battler again. And, I mean, even me knowing that, at the very least, some amount of it is fake, I thought it still tugged on my heartstrings a little bit.
I think
it was real, and I think that Beato's trick was the fake part.
Yeah, I'm on Caelum's side.
Interesting.
I think she actually did feel genuine remorse for her actions based on the fact that she realized that she cares about Battler and moreover cares about Battler's opinion. But, like, is trying to harden herself against that, and that's why that great ending happens.
Why do you think she cares about Battler's opinion? I don't mean this as, like, a got you. I just mean, like, I'm interested in that line of logic.
I don't know why anyone cares about Battler.
Well,
there's one thing that is said that Battler notices about Beatrice, and it's that she seems to wear her heart on her sleeve. And whether or not that's accurate or not is one thing, but I feel like it probably is, because during the very end, right before the drop, where, like, the shoe drops and she just, like, is like, oh yeah, I've been fucking with you the whole time, she has this, like, split second of, like, worry and hesitation on her face, and that's all I need to be like, I'm on board with Beatrice.
Okay, now I have to pull down my facade and say, Izzy, I'm entirely on your side. Yeah, like, Battler turns to Beatrice. We're fucking totally out of, like, chronological order, but that's totally fine. Battler turns to Beatrice and is like, no, that's not real, you weren't lying to me. And Beatrice, like, her sprite, like, shifts through 4 different faces that are, like, yeah, like, kind of hesitation, like, or like she's holding something back, like she's got a sweat drop, she's not sure what to say, and then, of course, eventually she goes, haha, Battler, witches never reform. But yeah, like, that split second, that splittest of second just feels incredibly important to me. What is all of that about? Who can say? I don't know. Beatrice? Who knows about her? But there's something rolling with this theory that, like, Beatrice maybe feels a little bit of remorse, or, like, her trick is the fact that she is pulling a trick at all. Do we think any of the stuff from before, the Golden Land was staged, or is all of that just totally real?
That's what I have been fucking wondering in this crisis of identity I've been having and trying to support Team Magic. I'm like, oh my god, Beatrice, you really fucked it up this time for me, because everything you did was totally fake and bullshit. This is where my wondering about Virgilia comes into play. Because, okay, at first my emotional arc for reading through this story was all of that stuff happens with Beatrice and Battler leaving and Beatrice feeling bad and being like, I didn't understand that would hurt his feelings. Even Battler's like, you genuinely look like you were having fun and like you wanted me to be having fun with this. It's not fun for me, it scares me, it hurts me, and it's fucked up. And Beatrice is like, oh no. And I'm like, oh no. Well, now I care a lot about Beatrice, because now she's fucking autistic coded too, because she doesn't understand social cues from anyone else, and she's, putting her own emotions out there, and she just assumes other people will like the same things she likes.
She just loves murder, like, genuinely.
She just loves murder genuinely,
and she says, ooh, like Maria does.
She says, she says,
That's
ooh, like Maria does. I have been laser beam eyeing that one. Yes, exactly. But then after all that, she turns around. And at first I was like, so my arc was, I love Beatrice even more than usual for this arc. Wow, she's helping other people. How beautiful. She's dying. Blah, blah, blah. I'm beautiful. I really am a sucker for this game. They step on my face. Fair enough. You got me. But after I was done being totally pissed off at Beatrice, I was like, there's something really weird she says in the end. because Virgilia's face also screws up and she looks crazy evil and she opens her eyes for the first time ever and they're crazy scary, like Beatrice's crazy scary eyes. And I'm like, oh no. And she says, I just had to do what teacher said. And it's like, what the? Wait a second. So this was all freaking Virgilia's idea? And this is why I'm having such a hard time gripping the reality of this. It's not even because I don't believe that Beatrice has some sort of real emotional arc going on. Because, God, she has to, because it would be so fucking boring next game if she did it. There's nothing left for her if she doesn't actually change. But fucking, like, what is Virgilia's deal? Like, what does she stand to gain? So, theoretically, she and Beatrice are fighting, but they're not really. I guess that was all totally staged, and apparently she was helping Battler, but actually, in reality, she was masterminding this whole Beatrice's trick. It's really Virgilia's trick. How much of this did she plan? How much of this did she tell Beatrice about? What does she stand to gain from all of this? So I'm like watching Virgilia with laser eyes right now, and I'm still holding out hope. I'm still mad at Beatrice. I'm kind of licking my wounds about it, but I still believe in her and her magic and the fact that she can change. But like, Virgilia, what is going on there?
So
are
Virgilia,
you like the secret final boss?
So obviously, the whole strategy that Beatrice ends up adopting is the North Wind and the Sun strategy that Virgilia talks to her about earlier in the novel. And
Yes.
And the interesting thing that stuck out to me this time rereading it is that Beatrice and Virgilia talk about, like, first, like, there's that scene where Beatrice is like, oh, master, give me a hint, help me, I have to get back in with Battler, help. And Virgilia says that shit about the North Wind and the Sun. And then later, I think it's even after, like, the 5th through 7th Twilights with Rudolph, Kyrie, and Hideyoshi, like, Beatrice is still realizing what the North Wind and the Sun strategy is. So my theory, and this is like a genuine theory, I don't know the truth about this, is that Beatrice is, like, playing that card, like earnestly playing that card, doesn't really come together until she is like helping George meet Shannon, and until she is like, you know, protecting Jessica and Cannon with her heart or whatever. And that before that, like,
It's all some amount of real.
Yeah, and I think even the fact that Beatrice does this trick it's a move in her game where her victory state or whatever is getting Battler to acknowledge her as a witch. Virgilia even says this straight out, that it's not about making Battler surrender. It's about getting Battler on her side is what Beatrice needs to be doing. It's about making Battler acknowledge her as a witch, and that, much like Hempel's Raven, you can do it in one of two ways. You can either try to beat them into submission, like you can be the North Wind and try to blow the cloak off the Traveler, or you can be the Sun and make the Traveler so warm that he takes the cloak off. And so with that in mind, I think that the question then becomes, like, what does it mean for Beatrice to win? And, like, is that such a bad thing? Outside of, well, she is the antagonist, and we are meant to believe that having the antagonist win is incorrect.
Would it be not a bad thing? I mean, it must be some amount of bad, because she looks really evil about it at the end.
Well,
it's really menacing, and Anne shows up and is like, no.
Yeah, Angie does show up.
And
Oh,
Virgilia
Angie.
looks evil too,
Angie.
and then Beatrice is threatening to turn their bones into bread again. And it's like, well, it must be some amount of evil, but we don't know.
I don't think Beatrice wants to win.
Really?
And I don't think Beatrice wants to lose. And I think, honestly, Battler's gone to that point too, because they both are having so much fun with each other doing these fucked up games. They just want to keep doing that forever.
That's true. Battler says as much.
I think also that, like, the way that Beatrice, like, defeats Eva Beatrice is in itself an admission that Beatrice doesn't want to win, because even though she had Battler, like, completely, like, cut himself off and be unable to, like, hear the truth that she is speaking, by speaking that truth, she played a massive hand in his favor, and now he knows that he can win, right?
Exactly. So if we can zoom out a little bit, I have said this piece of trivia to everyone I've ever talked to episode 3 about, but I think it's really key for understanding what's going on here from the perspective of, like, Umineko is a When They Cry game. So episode 2 comes out. It's, you know, extremely difficult, or whatever its difficulty rating is. The reading public basically en masse like totally submits to the witch, and they say, well, oh, look at all this magic that's happening. This is definitely magic. It's definitely Beatrice. There's no use in even playing this game. I'm going to completely stop thinking about this. So Ryukishi, who is working on a draft of episode 3 at the time called Land of the Golden Witch, which is being made to be like another extremely difficult game, he scraps that whole thing and develops what eventually becomes the real episode 3, Banquet, specifically towards the end of showing people that it is possible to fight back against Beatrice, which you see through Virgilia, like, you know, leading Battler through like the notion of Schrodinger's cat box, which you see in all of the like red truth that Ronove slips to Battler, that you see in, I think, even like having Ava Beatrice as the main antagonist, and to have a main antagonist who can be defeated by, as you say, Caelum, Beatrice playing the ultimate card and proving that it is possible to deny all magic. All of that is toward the authorial goal, I think, of showing people that, no, this is a game you can play. This is a game you can win. This is a game that it is possible to think about.
God, I love that shit so much. I love like the kind of like interplay between author and audience. Like that's my favorite shit ever in serialized media, and Umineko does it a lot in ways that I think are extremely interesting, most of which haven't really come up this early in the novel, so I don't really want to talk about them just yet. Love it. Love that shit. I love meta text.
Yeah, and there's so much, specifically in Ryukishi responding to audience response. There's at least one more major incident of that we will get to, but yeah, like there's something so fascinating about serialized media and how it, you know, on a certain scale, on the scale of like this doujin being created by like, you know, 5 or 10 people, how it allows you to respond to your audience and how it allows that conversation to happen. You see it like even all the way up to television shows where it's not as apparent episode to episode, but if you look like season by season, or even in the case of, you know, like even blockbuster movies, blockbuster Hollywood movies, you can see that a lot, fan reaction affecting things. Is it always a good thing? No.
No, it's usually bad, honestly.
Yeah. But I think what it speaks to in Umineko is that there is, in this instance especially, there's a genuine desire from Ryukishi for people to try to engage in this work and to say, hey, like, you know, this game that I have set up for you, this game board, like, it is possible for you to think about it, and it, you know, please give it a try, which I think is just really genuine and sweet. Honestly.
Yeah. I think Umineko, as it is structured, is also really conducive to that kind of interplay too, because it's like that's essentially what Battler is doing, right? Like the conversation between Battler and Beatrice is exactly this kind of interplay between author and work and its fan base is that, right? The relationship of, so comparing Umineko to Higurashi, to just get totally into the weeds for a second, Higurashi is set up as like a game board, you know, the When They Cry game ethos of pieces moving around on a game board, and you have to try and figure out the rules that those pieces move by. Higurashi is that in a very direct way, like it's very obscure, but it's for most of the series is solely a view of the game board, where in Umineko, you only get that view solely of the game board for like one episode and like kind of 2 episodes for turn. And then by the time you get here to episode 3, like the focus is no longer on the game board and the movement of the pieces. That is something you are considering in addition to like this zoomed out view where you get to see the players moving those pieces. And it adds this whole other level of meaning making to it that we're only starting to really access now. And I think it's part of the reason that I love Umineko so much, is there's so much to grab onto and so much to consider and so many different lenses to view things through.
Can I want to say to Matt directly.
You don't even see it, you hear it, right? If Matt...
As Matt shouts in the background.
Come back.
He knew I was gonna talk to him, so he left.
Try to remember.
I haven't left. I'm here.
I can still hear his voice sometimes. I just wanted to say that in reading this, especially like for the first like 75 to 80% of this book, my initial thought was like, oh, fuck. Matt is gonna feel so vindicated and delighted at the events of this book. I was like, oh man, I'm really happy for Matt, because I'm not happy for myself right now, and I know that means Matt is gonna be happy. But also then with the end of this book being the way it is, so while we're still talking about meta stuff, like, you know, it's all going to be game board from now on, more or less, you know, we don't know, but that's sort of what's being set up to be. Does that mean less murders and mysteries and shit? Like, I want to know what you're thinking, sort of big picture and or meta picture, Matt, about this, because reading this, I was like, oh, this is Matt's turn of the golden Matt, but alas, it might not actually be. So I'm curious what you're thinking.
All right, everyone, buckle up. I've been keeping quiet for a while now just because I've got so much to say.
We're gonna get the full Matt. Everybody, please put on your safety goggles.
Hold on, I got my seatbelt
This
on.
episode was specifically made to blow up people who are like me, people who are coming in for a story. And I did not view this as, hey, Beatrice has actual regrets and she turned away at the last moment. No, I viewed this at the end like, oh, she laid down all these pieces and played the whole story exactly like that just to get Battler and me, because Battler is effectively me in this story, to get to that point of, yeah, you know what? She may be a witch, but she's a good witch, so who cares? It's fine. By the end of it, in an ironic turn, I was like, yeah, it's fine if she's a witch, I guess. Yeah, I know.
Hook, line, and sinker!
No, I can't really fully express how hook, line, and sinker I was. Because when you go back to the actual thought of this episode and what it's about gender and the roles that are put into it and the associations you make with it. And Beatrice just putting her hand over her head and leaning back and going, oh, I've got the vapors. I need someone to come up with a big solution to save the day.
God,
and every single thing that I could have been a white knight and fallen right for, I did. And I see it as her playing specifically against me with this entire episode. And even though, yes, this episode was very much team magic is fake and dumb, it still was such a punch in the gut to see that the game knew that that's exactly how I wanted to play it. And oh my god.
It's so good. Like, I think we, maybe we can assume that, like, there's something more going on with Beatrice, but we also have to applaud that Beato's trick totally, the scene where she is, like, falling apart and only her golden heart is there protecting the lovers from the evil witch is, like, the sappiest, most maudlin thing in the world. And when I read it as a child, I ate it up too, Matt. I was right directly in your shoes. Yeah. It's so...
You're so fucking backhanded today. You know, Matt, when I was a fucking baby, I also was upset.
I'm trying to relate to you. It's a good moment.
I feel like this is like that thing where it's like you're playing one of those video games, it's a shooter game, like you're like playing Call of Duty just because, I mean, who is these days? But like, you're playing Call of Duty and you've like started the campaign, it's like, oh, don't you feel so bad for shooting these people? And it's like, I have to. You told me to do that. It's like the same thing with this episode of Umineko, because they gave me a big ass cool witch fight and I was like, oh shit, I couldn't believe my eyes. There was a cutscene, there was cool music, they were shooting down shit from God, they were big, they were destroying each other, there were witch fight rules. I was like, yes, this is delicious. And then right after that, Beatrice is like, how'd you like my big fucking fake ass fight, huh? You stupid idiots at home love when a bunch of girls throw a bunch of random shit at each other, huh? I was like, oh, thanks, yeah, I guess I'm the fucking jackass for reading this.
So Virgilia is very much trying to win the game with Beatrice at the end, and that's very clear when she makes a spooky face at the same time as Beatrice.
Yes, it all crystallizes right there.
Who makes a spooky face first?
Oh, that's a good question.
Anyone remember?
I think it was Virgilia, actually.
I also think it was Virgilia.
I'm gonna go back to it and see if I can find out.
I'm like nervous because I play a slightly different release of Umineko than everyone else.
Yeah, me too. So I can't truly say.
It's come up a couple times while we're talking about it because my translation is ever so slightly different. But like y'all were talking about like Ava's sprite having a dead-eyed expression, and that wasn't in my version.
So that happened for us, but it was those lame, like, full-screen CGs, and it was the one of Ava holding her gun, and, like, her eyes... It's not as cool as... Okay.
It looks really cool.
My favorite CG...
Do we have room for me...
No, we can't talk about my favorite CG yet.
Oh, you can't? Okay.
No. Well, my favorite CG in episode 3.
To finish my line of thought.
Yes, Matt.
I believe Virgilia is, like, obviously she's a piece on the game board, but I'm not 100% convinced that she's not Lambda Delta's piece on the board, much like how Angie is Burncastle's piece, because we learned at the very end of the episode that Lambda Delta's like, hey, you know what? TikTok, when's this going somewhere? You had a sweet chance to win that one, and you blew it at the last second. What's going on?
Yeah,
it doesn't seem like you're playing to win. It seems like you're playing for fun.
So yeah, Lambda Delta like says all that shit because, you know, she is the witch of certainty, and she threatens Beatrice by saying, you know, I can turn you back into a human whenever I want. You know, you're nothing more than a temporary witch who is coasting along on my blessing. And you need to, you know, have more certainty in your play. It's totally. It's like you don't even want to win. And, you know, Beatrice kind of cowers and says, yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. And it's this very interesting hook, because we knew that Lambda Delta was like around earlier, but knowing that she has such a direct hand in the game, and that to Lambda Delta and Burncastle, who are these like kind of like epilogue bonus characters who it's not entirely clear how / if they really fit into the plot, that exchange puts them in a position to become a lot more important.
Yeah.
If I could get on my soapbox for a little bit. I'm not sure if I've gotten on this soapbox before. I'll cut it out if I have. I don't fucking know. Look. PS3 art sucks shit.
Yes.
I'm here to state definitively I have read 3 full novels like this now, and I am here to say, as someone with multiple years of experience in the field of reading Umineko, that the PS3 art is bad. And it is, it's like... It's fine. It's whatever. It's like, you know, the faces are all way too smooth. Genji looks like he was born like 2 days ago, and like he looks like I could use his face as like a coaster or something. It's horrible. It's horrible. Goda looks bad. The Chester sisters especially.
Well, that's accurate.
Something about
they look normal.
Just look they just look.
I'm PS3 neutral. It's definitely not the Pachinko art, thank God. But like,
it's not. Well, no, nothing's the Pachinko art, of course.
As expressive or as fitting of the narrative as the original Ryukishi art, though. By far.
Exactly. Like specifically in the instance that you were saying, Anna, of the reveal of culprit Eva. What happens, if I remember right, in the original thing is that it's black, and then it cuts to like a scene just like anything else, like any other scene you've seen, where it's just the character sprite standing there. It's Battler and Eva. Eva is there holding the gun and like has kind of like a consternated face, and then she raises the gun, you know, points it at the camera, and her eyes like go black, essentially.
And it's one of those fixed timing things. That scene was crazy to me. That elevated the whole thing. It was the best part of the ending, because Battler goes, on Eva, it was you all along, and like you can like sense the like shock and the heartbreak and the realization in that line. And she's like, took you long enough, Battler-kun? And she's got like her silly face on.
That's it, yeah.
And then her eyes go dead for like literally 1 second of fixed time, and there's the gunshot sound, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, that's just not in the Umineko project release. It's really sad.
In the PS3 art, what happens is when that happens, it cuts to... It has that same thing where it cuts to like the 2 characters standing there, took you long enough, Battler-kun, and then it's switches to this full screen CG of Eva holding the gun, and only her face changes, and her like pupils get really small, and she gets this creepy smile, and then you get the gunshot. So it's kind of similar to the original one, but the fact that it cuts away from the reality of the visual novel, of the characters just standing there and the sprites changing, that it cuts to a bespoke CG of it, like, in my opinion, totally ruins the impact of that scene. Because what's so great about it is that reality that you know about, it goes from this like very regular sprite that you see all the time, is shattered, and you see like the fucked up face, and she raises the gun, and it does it. By switching to the CG, it shatters that reality too early and lessens the impact when it does happen.
Part of it is the shock of the suddenness of that change. It's part of the beauty of the storytelling of the series and the sound novel format, which we already talked about how good that is. And it's like, don't take away your own tools.
So it happens all throughout the the PS3 port. I guess it's been ported to Switch now, the console port, I suppose I should say. And I really truly do not think, like, there are some cool effects where, like, Shannon's barrier will, like, spin around her, or, like, you watch the tower, like, CG towers spring up out of the ground instead of it just being a JPEG. But I really think that most of the changes that the PS3 art makes, like, generally, not greatly, it's not like some deep dive in quality, but generally worsens the experience of reading Umineko.
So I'm reading the Steam version. Is that the one with the alternate images of the pachinko art?
Yes.
Yeah, the alternate images are garbage there too.
Yeah, the pachinko art is, like, immensely worse in every way. It looks like dog shit. All the girls' boobs are way too big, which is really saying something considering how big they are already. It's
quickly. Matt, I checked. It is Beatrice who goes crazy first. I don't know if that affects any of your theories or thoughts.
I was still fast forwarding.
No, it's totally fine. I am not really affected too much either way. I just genuinely was wondering who actually lit that fuse.
Yeah, it's Beatrice. Which made me... What my first thought during that scene was, okay, so is Beatrice, like, controlling Virgilia in the way that, like, she quote-unquote brought her back to life? Is there some weird shit happening there where she's just a puppet of Beatrice's? But what does Virgilia stand to gain? So that's back to all my Virgilia questions. So yeah, I'm still wondering about her.
That almost makes me wonder then, if it is Beato who did it first, did she deliberately trip at the finish line?
I was kind of rationalized that as, like, a contrivance to keep the fucking novel going. I'll be real with you.
Like,
yeah, she definitely intentionally tripped at the finish line.
Matt, your brain is huge.
Your brain is huge!
Thanks, I work out at the library.
Because, like, if they hadn't gone evil, Battler would have fucking signed that thing.
So maybe she went on evil on purpose to keep the game going.
Oh my god, so Virgilia went on evil on purpose too, to keep it going for her beloved student. Oh my god, I'm back on the side of magic.
Remember that Lambda Delta, her thing that she said to Beatrice is that the game needs to be a cage for Berncastle, so that she can never escape. And is that the case? You know, maybe you could just say, oh, Berncastle would never give up, and even if she was, like, defeated, she would be brought back. But it feels important to me that every single time so far, it's been near defeats, you know? It's not... Beatrice never completely wins. There's always the one holdout, whether it's Battler, whether it's Rosa... You know, whether it's Angie breaking in through the thing, which is interesting to me. We'll see where that goes. Let's talk about Ava a little bit, because she's kind of the
it's time.
Famous Umineko structure. She is the focus adult for this episode, and we learn a lot of things about her and through her.
So the episode starts off with a flashback to someone as a child breaking a vase, I believe, and they're like, oh, grandfather's gonna be so mad, and that's when Virgilia first shows up, introducing herself as Beatrice and fixing it for her and everything. And then I think a bit after that we get a second flashback of Ava's in a dream sequence of hers, where she remembers a time where she did something dumb and Kinzo was angry at her, and Kinzo's like, why are my children such shitty pieces of awfulness? They're so bad. Why did this happen? How could this have happened? And Genji's like, no, your children... You did a great job raising them. Yeah, good job,
You're
man.
not a cringe father.
Convincingly, yes.
The children are not
Up top,
fail.
bro.
Up top.
And then Ava wakes up from her dream and she's like, you know, sometimes I think maybe I'm projecting my desires onto George. And then Hideyoshi goes, no, you're a great parent. You're doing so great. Up top, bro.
You're such an epic mother.
Nah, baby, you're the tops.
So when your Win son who is dating a 16-year-old, but we don't know about that.
Oh my god. I actually do have something to raise up about that very early flashback. Who is grandfather?
Me too.
Kenzo?
Grandfather who?
Grandfather who?
Beatrice's grandfather?
If it's Beatrice, that doesn't make sense, because none of the Beatrices that have been established in this episode would refer to Kinzo as grandfather or have someone in their life that they would refer to as such. And my first thought that it was one of the like Ushirimiya adults, but that also doesn't make sense because they also don't have anyone in their life they would call grandfather. So Who is it? Is it really from Beatrice's perspective?
They mentioned wait. The Ushiromiya adults mention at one point very briefly their grandfather, right?
Do they?
During this episode, I swear to God,
No?
they did. Very briefly, they're like, our grandfather would always get pissed about stuff too. We think that's where Dad got it from. Isn't that mentioned?
My
at some time?
understanding is that
Maybe.
essentially none of the Ushiromiya family other than Kinzo really matters, because like all the ones of relevance died in an earthquake.
I guess that's true.
So there are other family members, but none of them matter, and I don't believe any of them would be
Well,
considered
remember
grandfather.
that I think even if Kinzo, I think if Kinzo's parents are brought up at all, I think what that would mainly serve to do is to reinforce the all caps cycle of abuse that is running through the Ushiromiya family.
I think there's a point that we're forgetting to remember.
Mm-hmm.
When they were talking about Kinzo and his relationship with his wife at the time, not Beatrice, but the wife, it was an arranged marriage arranged by the elders of the Ushiromiya family in order to help him bring back the family after it was earthquaked. So, like, there were clearly people controlling him,
Yeah.
like, at the beginning.
Yeah, I always figured it was like aunts and uncles, not like a father, but
But we don't
know for sure.
And I think that's keep talking about Beatrice for a little bit. I swear we're going to talk about Ava. But that's an important point for why Kinzo would care so much about Beatrice. If Beatrice was this mistress that he, met somewhere, she might be someone that he actually loves instead of, his wife who gave birth to all of the Ushiromiya kids that we know.
Loved so much, he kept her in a mansion on a remote island for
Love makes
her
you
entire
do
life.
crazy things. Just makes you go fucking nutso and kidnap and isolate people because you just fucking love them so much.
Yeah.
So, Caelum,
yes.
I think we're kind of ignoring the obvious answer that grandfather is just Kinzo.
But if it doesn't make sense for it to be Kinzo because
Kinzo isn't Beatrice's grandfather. That's impossible.
yeah.
Why would that be impossible?
Because his kids. If this was the world of 1967, then his kids were still kids. His kids couldn't have had kids at that time, unless he has more secret kids.
I mean, I guess he could
This
have
flashback
secret kids.
didn't take place in 67.
We don't know when that very first flashback takes place.
But if that, well, even crazier, if the flashback is about between little baby Beatrice and Virgilia, and then the flashback we see that's dated 1967 is when Beatrice is 20, then that would mean it was freaking ostensive any time between like 1945 and 1955, 1960. So that would be baby Beatrice, and so then his Kinzo wouldn't have had kids with kids.
I hope not.
Well, yeah, but you're thinking about this from a chronological order, which I don't think is necessarily worth doing in this story. Like, this could very well be Jessica or Maria and them just kind of reflecting and being a reflection of all the family's trauma. So maybe that
I could buy it being Jessica
Virgilia,
for
whoever
sure,
that might be.
and like Virgilia would be, I guess, like in Kumasawa form, and that this is allegorical with a capital A.
Oh God, maybe.
I could absolutely see Kumasawa just saying, yeah, just tell him a cat broke it. Who cares?
Yeah, that's
I
a
can
very
also see
Kumasawa.
Kumasawa talking to a child Jessica and being like, I can do magic enough to make sure it's another servant's problem.
That's a very powerful magic.
And then she pushed him down the stairs and he's like, oh, I broke my foot. Now I have to leave. It was the witch Beatrice.
It's true. Kumatrice. We're starting it right now.
Kumatrice.
Kumasawa-trice. Kumatrice.
Volgantris.
Okay.
But yeah,
Volgantris sounds
Ava.
like a terrible website.
Ava, well, God, what the fuck was I even saying? We learn a lot of things both about Ava and through Ava. One of the things that we learn both about Ava and through Ava is about, like, just kind of the true rantedness of the gender politics and the existence of the gendered hierarchy of the Ushiromiya family. It's something we've known all this time. I specifically have made mention of all the times, like, gender keeps cropping up in the back in the last two episodes. The way the episode 1 literally opens on Battler pulling his "I'm a big man now" shtick to Hideyoshi. But here we see, like, the Kraus of whenever, the Kraus of 1950, whatever, saying to, you know, his younger sibling, Ava, deadass, like, some women belong in the kitchen shit.
Women be shopping, Ava.
Yeah.
Literally. And,
Terrible.
like, and then Kinzo, you know, rolls up and, like, basically says all this shit back to her.
Women be shopping, Ava!
That's what he's like. Like I said, how gender is kind of the focused trauma of this episode. You see Hideyoshi and Ava, like, their positions as husband and wife. The Rudolph and Kyrie, when they get killed, they have very big, like, Kyrie's like, a woman should have at least a small inferiority complex. Like, I have trouble drawing specific meaning from all of this, but it's very clear that in the Yoshiramiya family, gender as a method of control, like as a thing that it is important to conform to, as another thing that is expected of you, is way up there.
Yeah, I thought the sort of child with big dreams who won't give up, I thought that was like a very beautiful and fun way of conveying all of that. Fun, not in a like happy-go-lucky sense, obviously. You know, nothing about this was fun and jolly. But like, I thought that was a very artful way of describing the dreams in her heart that never died, and the part of her that still won't give up on those, and that sort of thing, and giving that voice sort of like through this pseudo magic, even before Ava Beatrice exists. I liked that a lot.
I think it's interesting that Ava's desire in this system that's like hurting her and constraining her, her thought is, well, if I just get in charge of it, if it's just me up there, then like everything will be fine. And, you know, the ways that Ava interacts with Rosa and, you know, basically like calls her a stupid bitch over and over and over again, and reproduces the misogyny that she suffers to her younger sister.
It's so interesting how it's poisoned her. There's a point when she's like solving the epitaph, which that was all wild to me. I didn't follow any of that, obviously. I think there's some things, but like when she's like, maybe Rosa might be able to solve it before me, but no, she's always so stupid, right? She wouldn't get that. And even child Ava is like, is she stupid, or has she just been like playing stupid as her own defense mechanism? Like, are you just doubting her because you're that much of a bitch? I don't know. It's interesting that she was truly lost in the sauce of her own misogyny and hatred, and sort of using it as a defense mechanism for her acts, like defending her actions in the way that she is, while still turning it on other people.
Well, what occurs to me thinking about it now is that a large part of this episode is the idea of succession, and the idea of, like, you know, when you become like the next person in charge, how do you handle that? How, like, what does it, I mean, the question, I guess, that occurs to me is, should you even want to be the next person in charge? Like, the idea that Ava latches onto is, if I could just become the Shiramiya family head, if I could just be the one in charge of it all, you know, and the sins that brings her to commit, and the place it ultimately ends up leaving her, at the very end of the episode, in the hidden tea party, met with when Ava Beatrice succeeds Beatrice as the golden and endless witch, and the way that Beatrice succeeds Virgilia, and the way that the predecessor is always calling on the person after them to have their change of heart, or to maybe not asking them to not make the same mistakes they did, but to, like,
they realize their own mistakes and try half-heartedly to tell them not to do that. I think in every instance, actually, yeah, try to gently correct their course. Ava even does that to Ange in her own really twisted way. She's like, well, my mistake was, you know, letting myself get close to people who could have hurt me, so I'll correct that for you, you know. Which kind of goes back to the concept of motherdom, which is its whole own thing. Very big in Umineko.
As a parent, all of parenthood is trying to make sure your kid fucks up less majorly than you.
I think we even see this with Kraus a little bit right before he and Natsui get killed. He has this little scene with Natsui where he says that he, like, you know, deeply regrets the way that he treated Ava, and that the way he puts it is that he's willing to bear that cross, like, for the rest of his life because he thinks it's what he deserves. And at no point in this conversation is there any consideration given to like what could healing look like? What could change actually look like? It's always the idea of fucking up and then either just bearing the horrible awfulness inside of you somehow, and inevitably bemoaning the fact when you pass it on to the next person in the chain. Right here, right now, thinking about it, it's difficult to think of a character who doesn't struggle with that in some way, in one form or another.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rosa, Matsui. I mean,
Lucifer.
my God, Kyrie's whole crazy speech about Battler. Can we, for just 2 seconds, talk about that?
Let's talk. Let's do it.
The Kyrie reveal, sort of as a parallel to Ava. She's like supposed to be like the good one. She's defending her husband. She's trying to fight against this evil witch Evatrice, in whatever form that looked like IRL's fighting real Eva. Who knows? But it's about jealousy and sex and hating other women. And hating your son for coming from another woman. And fucking, she comes up to Rudolph and is like, "You'd better not be flirting with those sexy steaks, babe." Haha. Oh my God. Like, she's a hot mess disaster too. Like, everyone in this episode, it really is about, like, women hating other women. They're gatekeeping, gaslighting, and girl bossing for real. I mean, it's such a low-hanging joke, but for real, they're going for it in this whole thing.
Yeah, Kyrie is very high up on my favorite characters in Umineko, and I think this episode being the one where she gets the most focus is very interesting. Like, I think that this being, like, honestly, the first major character reveal we get her at all is that she is really not over Rudolph marrying someone else.
That she's literally powered by jealousy, and she defeats the fucking personification of jealousy in a jealousy fight because she's so jealous. So jealous.
While we're at the jealousy fight, I just want to... It's a little bit of non sequitur, but the writing in the fucking book is so fucking good.
Oh my God, yeah.
Because, like, it sounds like during that fight, the writers are going, and then this happened, and then, like, it broke into 12, and then you multiply that by 36, and that's, like,
the math
that's, like,
so
many.
This is how much jealousy I am.
It's so
You fool,
good.
you imbecile, this is how much jealousy I am.
It really feels like
hey, at the very end, Beatrice says, "Well, I've been hearing about the people from anime and manga and galge who are everyone loves the tsunderes these days, so maybe not wholly divorced from the meaning making of Umineko."
Oh God, what does she say? She says, "Girls who freak the shit out."
Yeah.
This is exact word. That word made me crazy.
Bitch.
Yeah, just a brief non sequitur. The writing is really inspired in this one. They went somewhere else. Even Rudolph sounded cool during those fight scenes. While we're talking about the fight scenes, I was like, "Damn, Rudolph, you're pretty awesome right now."
Rudolph's trick was pretty good.
That's a real shame how cool you are right
This
now.
episode made me like Rudolph, which I will never forgive it.
Hey, how do y'all feel about the fact that bullets are anti-magic?
I love that. That's so fucking funny. I want to get into that later.
Yeah. The rules that we learn about magic and how magic functions, and that it essentially barely functions at all, is just great.
I have some things to say about magic when it's relevant.
Well, I want to take a little break here in talking about meaning making and magic to give a little time to the third M of Umineko, mystery, and talk about the epitaph a little bit.
It was bullshit that we didn't actually get to know what the solution was.
I know.
We're on episode 3 of 8.
My brain was screaming.
It's called the question arcs, being in those answer arcs.
I don't care
yet.
that it's called the question arcs. And a problem I have with it is the way they talked about the epitaph made it sound like it was a word puzzle involving heavily Japanese characters, and I'm reading a translated version in English, so I don't think I have the pieces I need to solve this puzzle.
I extremely disagree, and I think it's totally solvable, and I've upset myself by realizing I think one very tiny part of it.
What? Tell us.
Well, yeah, share with the class.
This will probably make me look like an idiot asshole when we figure out the actual explanation for it and everything, but just I started thinking about the sucker Mary Barrelers line a bit.
Important.
and how simple that would be, where like the first half, as Kyrie lays out, or the first third of it is, hey, here's the key that you need in order to solve the rest of it. And then thinking about that and just kind of doing a few brief exercises of, well, what if I remove this letter from this sentence and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And this is literally a post-it note that I have that has 3 words on it. The first word is epitaph, the second word is remove, and the third word is U. So if you remove the letter U from gouge the head, it turns into get...
Wait, what?
God, what did I actually write down? I wish I wrote more words on this post-it note, actually. Gauze turns into go get, and then from there on, it doesn't go anywhere else because there's more
Go
letters
get
that need
he
to be removed
head.
or something.
Go get
Shut
he
up.
stomach.
I know, and kill. But that's why I feel like there is something to it. There is a way to solve this, and like I could brute force it and try to figure out what 6 letters would even do this, but that might not be the right way to go. But it's just a tiny thought that I have, and one little test that I did. It went better than I thought it would, and it makes me think that maybe this isn't a you have to know Japanese geography to know what to do here.
Didn't Jenn say in the first episode you have to know Japanese geography?
I did
Who
not
listens
say,
to Jenn?
okay, I've been thinking about this, and I think that the epitaph, as it exists in the official Steam release of Umineko, is translated in such a way that one of us could theoretically solve it.
One of us
Okay.
specifically?
Not one
Like,
of
with
us.
our
Okay,
capabilities?
someone who is not a native Japanese speaker could solve it. However, as I think you've seen from the way that the characters are talking about it, the nature of this as something that is originally written in Japanese is important to it, I think. So I guess what I might say is I think that solving the epitaph, I think it involves extra work for non-Japanese speakers. And I think that extra work does make it more difficult, but I do not think it is utterly, wholly unsolvable. My take on it is it would require quite a bit of legwork. Most importantly, I think, because we are missing a very crucial piece of information that the characters are not, which is the location of Kinzo's beloved hometown.
They mentioned it a couple times. They said it was Odawara. No, wait, no, that's where.
No, they said that's not beloved at all.
Right, you're right.
That's the place where the Ushirimiya head family or something like that. Basically, that is where Kinzo grew up, and I think that's where the family was living for a little bit before they all moved to Rakenjima, but it's specifically, they talk around it.
Yes, in the story they say,
here.
yes, that place. Haha.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
Place.
They do that.
Fucking
They do that
assholes.
Japanese thing where they don't say the actual word that they're
I
saying.
hate it here.
That we learn a few things about it. We learn that it was heavily affected by the war, but that it has experienced a great resurgence since then.
We literally thought they were talking about Odawara. I'm so dense.
Oh, you're fine. It's the sort of thing that I think if you are a Japanese person reading this or someone who is local to maybe the East Asian sphere, that might be the kind of thing you could infer, because you would have, that would be like more local-ish history to you than it is for us, or even like you might have some ideas about where you could even start. And even for Eva, when she solves it, with the help of the soon-to-be Avatrice in her heart, figuring that part out is kind of the thing that sets the domino chain off. And she's kind of able to solve things from there, not wholly without issue, but everything more or less falls into place once she knows where to, like, what that beloved hometown, what that Sweet Fish River might be.
See, my instinct was, when I first read this, was that the beloved hometown was like Beatrice's hometown. And I was like, well, that's going to be even harder to figure out because, like, she's 1,000 years old.
That's an interesting idea. If it is Beatrice's hometown, then maybe this is a lot harder than we think.
But it can't be because Ava figured it out, and like Ava doesn't know where Beatrice was born, so
It's
I
true.
was so frustrated with not being able to like know what it was that I was trying to think about it from other angles. So my actual question to the game and to also everyone on this podcast is like, so then does the rest of the does the rest of the epitaph really not matter at all? Like, Kyrie hesitates on that one line that's like, once and for the last time. And she's like, that seems pretty weird, don't you think? Why would it be?
I think that's Rosa that focuses on that one, but yeah.
Oh, it's Rosa?
I think so.
Yeah. She's like, why would it be for the last time? And I don't know if that's part of like the word puzzle, is like it's you stop on this word once and for the last time, or if that has something to do with that, or if that's a greater like existential thing about the reality of the gold and the headship and the estate or whatever. So I'm super curious about that now, because I feel like otherwise it's not that interesting to keep waiting about the epitaph. If it's been solved and we don't know, and it's just you take some characters away and it's a place. Like, great, okay, so we're gonna wait the next 5 books to find out the name of the place.
Well, if there's a place...
if there's actual... I know.
I think that would be a shitty solution. I don't think it would do that.
I don't think that it's a place. I think it's more like... It is, to a certain extent, a location. Like, they show that in the book, that it's a place on Rokkenjima where you go down. But then, when you get there, you need to input a secret passcode somehow. And that's what the gouge the part is the passcode. That's my interpretation, at least, is that is instructions on how to open this door. I imagine it is like that one floor inside of Banjo-Kazooie that is a big alphabet, and you have to press the right buttons.
I think it's exactly like that. I do want to say my release that I'm reading is actually translates the epitaph slightly differently. In a way that... It
does.
Yeah, they talk about it instead of it being Golden Land's treasures once and for the last time, the way Golden Land is phrased is different. I can't remember exactly how. I think it's like Land of the Gold.
Yeah. It uses some particular kanji that's like kind of weird or archaic or something.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's like any kind of hint at all to solving this, but I did think that was interesting.
Could you say what it said again? How does yours read?
I'm not recalling exactly what it is. I'm trying to find... I think it's on the 10th night the journey will end, and you shall reach the capital on which the gold dwells. Like, it was...
Yes, I think
it was different in that way.
Okay. Is it off base for me to potentially presume that the beloved hometown is the mansion where Beatrice was held?
That's something you could try.
Yeah.
So what would the beloved Sweetfish River be?
Because... she doesn't figure out where the gold is until after Rosa talks about murdering Beatrice. So I definitely think that has validity.
Dang, I'm smart.
On one of my 1,000 of index cards for episode 1, I did have a note of who wrote this epitaph. Was it Kinzo or Beatrice? Because it feels a bit up in the air. So I'm glad to see it's not just me who's getting that feeling.
Wasn't there like a flashback before the epitaph got put up where like Eva was being told by Beatrice, like, hey, check out this fucking epitaph? Or was I misreading what was happening?
I don't think so. I think the epitaph only comes up in the quote-unquote present day. I don't think it comes up in the... I think that Ava might have said, or they might have said that they've tried to figure it out before, but...
Yeah, they mentioned the epitaph's only been up for like a couple years, right?
2 years. It came with Goda.
Of course.
Yeah, it did come with Goda.
Goda is the treasure.
Goda is the treasure.
That's why he's so big.
I'm the gift.
Rude.
Also, and this is getting away from Ava, so I won't dwell on it. But like, okay, so if the gold is real, if there's really a mountain of fucking gold, then is magic also real? Because where the fuck did that come from?
Is the gold real?
Is the gold real?
We don't know if the gold's real.
That's a great question. I really don't think so right now, but that's the whole question of this art. Just something to percolate on, because hooty doody.
Just want to take a hot second to once again say, hey, Ryukishi, you've done the impossible, and you've made both Team Magic is Fake and Magic is Real both be upset.
Grade A jackass.
Ryukishi did that.
Rubs my hands together, I'm living.
The moment this motherfucker was like, check out these brown tubes. Oh, by the way, Schrodinger's box. I was like, everyone's gonna hate this. Oh my god. I started laughing my ass off when that came out.
I do need to take a second to shout out how they presented that scene of Virgilia talking to Battler and going, yo, you got the brawn tubes and everything. And then Battler goes and turns to Beatrice, who wasn't privy to this conversation. She's like, the tubes, Beatrice, look out for them. I've got you now.
What the fuck are you talking about, sir? It's so good.
My take on the gold is that I think some of it exists, but it isn't 10 tons. I think the discussion that the kids had in episode 1, where they're like, tons is probably an exaggeration, but it's probably a shitload, like kilograms. 10 kilograms of gold is still a ludicrous amount.
Well, the amount Ava claims to find when she finds it is the amount that is calculated in that episode or whatever, because it's the same amount she comes to. She's like, that would be X billion yen. And that's the same number that they came up with when they were saying, that must be an exaggeration because that's too much.
Right. Well, do you trust Ava's
theoretically, we see her find the same amount of too much gold. That is theorized.
And she takes it and shows Rosa it as well.
So at least two people, quote unquote, see it.
Now, do you trust their perspectives?
I don't know.
Flounder around, gasp and writhe.
I have been the past 3 days. That's all I've done.
We've only got about an hour left here, and let's go ahead and talk about Beatrice and kind of swing that into a discussion about like magic as a whole, because I think that she's a good inflection point from Ava to the rest of what's going on. How do we feel about Beatrice?
She's her persona from the Persona series.
I feel badly about it.
Not a fan. I think she's interesting in the context of like what she says about, you know, the wider world of Umineko, but as a person she sucks and I don't even like watching her.
I love her outfit. She's so stylish. She's fucking killing it.
The nicest thing I can say about Eva Beatrice is that I like her portrait more than I like Beatrice's. I think the pose in it is a lot more interesting and says a lot more about her character, which itself is interesting within the context of the Beatrice portrait being something Kinzo commissioned of someone who had at that point not existed for a long time, and when she did exist was an idealized image that he projected on an innocent woman. So
absolutely.
So by having Eva Beatrice's portrait be so much more dynamic and informative of her character, it also like informs more about Beatrice's portrait. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
No, but that also works in regards to the Beato portrait in episode 2 as well, where that has a lot more personality.
Caelum, you wrote something in our little workshop document about like why does Beatrice get off scot-free for the shit Beatrice does? Do you want to like could you expound a little bit on that?
The moment that like for this entire game, the whole conceit is that Ava did it through Eva Beatrice, and despite the fact that it is very much demonstrated that Beatrice conferred those powers to Ava and is therefore responsible for Ava having the powers of life and death that she uses to fucking torture people for a day, she just completely... like everyone's like, oh, Ava Beatrice did that, you didn't. It's an excuse that I guess makes sense in the context of like this is so much of a worse person that we're willing to at least temporarily give responsibility in this. But like in a like metatextual like us reading it thing, it's like why is Beatrice completely absolved of responsibility for Ava Beatrice's actions?
Well, I would direct your attention to the tip section at the Witch's Letter, where she says explicitly, if a person who appears who can miraculously solve it, which is the epitaph, I will give them all of the gold of the Golden Land, the Ushiramiya family inheritance, and all of my power.
Yeah, she sure does. I forgot about that.
Well, I think that's important because that's the... I don't have the other letter, like the one that Maria reads, the one that usually gets read at dinner, on hand. But I think she says something similar to that effect in that letter too, where it's like, I will forsake all of my right to the inheritance if you solve it, or like I will forsake all my right to the headship if you solve it. Yeah,
it's okay. So I still now even more within the text of like nobody questions Beatrice's like responsibility in this because her hands are tied. She's like, oh well, Ava won. She got my powers. It's not my fault. She's torturing people. But still, and it's a like, it's weird how like well. Am I weird in a good way? It's weird how like well she sells that she's like innocence and going and like totally on the mend, and that all the bad things that Ava Beatrice are doing are just nothing to do with her. How well she sells that, and how well the reader can buy into it when like she is very much responsible still.
Well, that's the whole arc of Battler's conflict with Beatrice.
Yeah.
In this.
Yeah, absolutely.
As he's like, no, this is your fault. Fucking, you can't pretend this isn't your fault when it's your actions that were inspiring her. You were doing these things before, and you didn't stop her, and you were having fun watching her. So, like, you're so full of it, this is literally your fault. And then he only comes around to her when she's like, I need to make amends meaningfully up to and through the point of dying about stopping her from hurting more people.
And that feeds into another thing through the series where you just keep seeing all these things going on, these cycles of abuse, and the same thing is repeated by George and other characters of, well, that's just the way it is. And nobody's ever held accountable for anything.
Yes, absolutely.
Until Battler turns toward Beatrice right here, like you're saying.
Yes, absolutely.
I think the question of should we blame Beatrice or Ava Beatrice is, I think it's an interesting point to consider that when Beatrice unveils her trick, one of the things that if you say, well, oh, Beatrice has manufactured this turn up until now, then Lambda Delta even says it in the Tea Party. Using doubles proved to be useful this time around, or something like that. So
yeah,
and the nature of Beatrice as the apparent master of the game board, the one who is making these closed room puzzles and presenting them to Battler. To what extent, this becomes the question of the entire series or this entire episode. To what extent can we understand Ava Beatrice as real?
Exactly. That's exactly my question about Ava Beatrice. At the end of all of this, I was wondering, the most obvious answer is that it is a double, that it is controlled, and that it is contrived. And so the answer is, it speaks to Beatrice's character and her not being over this and her representing her own childhood, maybe blah, blah, blah. But what does it say about Eva? What purpose narratively, then, is my question, does her existence serve, not in terms of the murder or even the conflict between these characters, but in the more meta, cross-book narrative? What purpose does her coming into existence here serve? What does she teach us and show us?
I think
on a broader level.
I think the child Ava is the solidified idea that Ava has to give up on her ideals and become a good wife and a good mother instead of claiming the power that she so desperately wants.
Yeah, but that's in the child Ava, but not the Ava-trice, right?
And then Ava-trice as a transformation is when Ava gets that power, when she has a chance to grasp at the thing that she so thought was above her, not above her, so out of her reach that she actually gets the chance to do it and she just goes absolutely apeshit. That's what I interpreted Ava-trice to be.
Yeah, I think that trying to come at it from a plot perspective, I think the fact that the character that eventually becomes Ava Beatrice exists well before Beatrice has her North Wind and the Sun realization points to, I think you have to make a decision about the game board. And I think you have to make a decision. It's the same decision you have to make about the Red Truth, which is, I am technically accepting the word of the antagonist. I am accepting that what the antagonist is saying to me is in some way true, or in case of the Red Truth, totally true. And that it is meaningful what they are saying and that there is something behind it. You have to put that trust in it at a certain point. You can either throw up your hands and say, fuck it, none of it means anything, it's totally worthless, and maybe some of it is, but I think for the child Ava and for her as Ava Beatrice, I think we have to put our trust into, call it Beatrice, call it Ryukishi07, that the existence of this character reveals to us something about some nature of Ava Ushiramiya, who she is clearly some kind of dark side of the coin to.
Why does Eva Beatrice exist in the view of the ceremony? Why does Eva Beatrice exist? Because she solved the riddle. But I was always under the assumption that if the riddle was solved, that was an alternate end condition to the ceremony.
I thought too. I said the same thing to Jenn when I was reading. I'm like, oh great, well she solved it. I guess people don't have to die anymore. like the fact that Beatrice looked at Eva Beatrice and was like, well, your turn to finish the ceremony. I was like, what the hell do you mean?
Well, it's one of those times where remember that one of Beatrice's best powers, according to the two other witches, is her ability to create noise. And sorting, that is the dark other side of the coin to what I was saying about trusting the things that are being said to you, is that you can't trust blindly because some of that stuff is noise and some of that stuff is just there to throw you off, and your ability to sort through that noise is the thing you're honing and the thing you're the thing you have to rely on as you get further and further into this witch's twisted up, fucked up mind palace.
This is the absolute noisiest one. I was thinking about that tip. I think Lambda told us that last time in the last question mark party. And god damn, I mean, it's just exponential noise as things continue. Each little chapter holds so much information. Then you go to the next chapter, and that's not even relevant anymore. And then you cut halfway through the game, and there's a new witch, and then there's a new witch, and then, yeah, this time it was harder than ever.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I think this is a good point for us to talk about, like, the advances both in Beatrice's game and the advances in, like, the meta, like, more meta, I guess, when they cry game that is going on here. We get a couple new mechanics in this one. We learn about Hempel's Raven, which is kind of positioned as the counter to the Devil's Proof from the earlier episodes. It's basically the idea of using of the contrapositive. I'm summoning all of my like 10th grade math class trying to remember what I learned about logic there.
Yeah.
Basically, it's the idea that you can either, if someone says to you, the murders were committed by a 19th person, you have two options. You can either perfectly prove, to work against that, you can either perfectly prove all of the alibis of the 18 people and therefore prove that it is a 19th person, or you can prove the existence of one person, the 19th person, and they did it. And that there are basically two ways to come at any claim, which ends up being the thing that Beatrice uses to defeat Ava Beatrice's claim about Curiae's motive, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's very fucked up, and like kind of finally solidifies this battle between Battler and Beatrice not as one of like actual proof and evidence necessarily, but one of these like fucked up like hyper debate club from high school.
I can't believe Beatrice wants to debate me on a live stream.
She literally does. You can't prove that witches aren't real. Have you seen every place on Earth? Have you seen just out?
What if a dinosaur got in that lake though?
For real?
I really liked it when Battler came around and was like, I don't see any magic here. And Beatrice is like,
It's
didn't
so
you watch
good.
all the magic happen? And he's just like, I don't see any magic here.
I don't think this happened, actually.
Literally the second power that Battler gets this episode is the power of nuh-uh.
The power of I'm looking away.
God, the Schrodinger's cat box, you know, the cat inside the box is either alive or dead until you look at it. And not just the cat is either alive or dead, but the cat is both alive and dead until you look at it, which again is a fucked up thing that doesn't make any sense unless you're having a fucked up logic battle with a witch.
Yeah, he's literally like seeing like anime battles and going, that's just a theory.
This is just a game theory and I won't have it.
I love it so much, and I think that these are introduced at this exact point in the story is really important because they inform the reader of the ways they can interpret seeds in the narrative.
Yes. This goes exactly back to Ryukishi trying to tell his audience, oh god, this is a game you can play, please, please, please. That's really what the cat box specifically is about, in my mind, is about telling people, look, Beatrice is going to tell you a whole bunch of shit, and it is your privilege as the other player to fucking tell her it's all whack.
I do recall the last episode, me having to go out about halfway through it and just going, I'm gonna say something you're not gonna like. I don't think any of this shit happened. And then I got raked over the coals.
That's why that exactly was why I was like, Matt won this one. That's what I thought specifically when reading, because I thought back to that moment, and I'm like, this isn't even surprising to me, because Matt already told me this was the case, and I was totally won over by his argument.
Now I'm just thinking about all the times that's already happened during this episode, and how you won't find out for months. Kicks my feet up.
That was hella cryptic. What do you mean?
I understood.
Oh.
So then if magic is just a game theory, then maybe to pull out a little bit, what can we say about magic, like, definitively, both from like its existence within the fiction of this world, but also like narratively, like what is the use of magic in this story?
Magic is Tinkerbell logic.
I love it. It is like children playing on a playground. It is literally, oh, my tower is better than your tower, and you didn't even notice that you got shot 10 minutes ago by my tower, which is so much cooler than yours. Like that's it. That's magic logic. I love it.
And that's me too.
I think I said something in an earlier episode. Man, I'm just really stroking myself from earlier episodes and what us.
You're really
Try
no, this is not that kind of podcast.
Do
Not that kind of podcast.
Do another one.
So, talking about me a few months ago. So I said something in an earlier episode along the lines of magic is a way to ignore the dark side and the sins of humanity, or something really corny like that, and I made some bad lines around it as well. But hey,
a true battler.
That's what I'm still. Shut up!
You're gonna come for us on a white horse.
Gonna crash that horse into a wall at top speed. Anyway. That still strikes me as basically true, is magic has been used by battlers even to go, I don't want to believe that the people that I like could do this. I don't want to believe in human cruelty. I want to cover it up with this falsehood, this easy to believe one where I don't need to think about it too much. And to a certain extent, Maria also engages in magic as an escape as well.
How so?
Her life sucks shit, so she's like, wow, it'd be super cool if I was a witch. What do you mean? What do I mean?
I'll support what Matt says. I think
state your points.
How Maria will frequently say that there's a bad witch that is like possessing Rosa whenever Rosa abuses her. Like that's just straight up what Matt's talking about. The idea of using magic to avoid facing the fact that the people that you love do terrible things to both you and others.
Wait, so like maybe there really was a bad mama? Because there was a bad Eva?
Maybe. I think this is so key to understanding Beatrice, is to use that last line from Maria in episode 2, there is only one mama. I think what the game, not explicitly in this episode, but what it's calling us to consider is that both Ava Beatrice and Ushiramiya Ava, while distinct entities, like in the sense of the narrative, that they are ultimately the same person. Not just in the sense of like, oh, Ava is like faking this witch personality because like she's so fucking twisted psychopath. But in the sense of, when you go to work, you present a different self to those people than you present to, say, when you are hanging out with your friends and stuff. This is like a very like well understood phenomenon. I think what Umineko is trying to get at is the very disparate selves that all of us have, and the ways we deflect onto that was 5 minutes ago me, like all of that stuff or whatever, while can be like fun and even useful. I mean, literally in the sense of Maria, like her conceptualizing this entity of the bad witch, like allows her to have a like somewhat positive relationship with her mother sometimes, like as a coping mechanism. It functions in that way. It can't be the whole story. You can't, believe that. You can't just say I was someone else or that wasn't me. It's
like Persona.
There can't be two Eva.
You got your shadow self.
There can't be two Evas because there are no more than 18 people in Rokkenjima.
Okay.
Logic beats magic again. Even when we're talking about magic, what we have to say about magic is there's nothing to say. It doesn't even exist at all. There are two interesting things that happened for me in regards to this conversation this episode. One of them, in more close relation, is when Rudolph and Kyrie have been killed and Ava is exploding them into meatballs over and over again, or Beatrice, I should say, and Hideyoshi runs up and slaps her and is like, Ava, stop, this isn't you, I'll teach you how to be good again, I'll like fight that bad out of your heart again, he says. And in the moment we're like, he just recognizes this as someone who is Beatrice or whatever, when you're swept up in the magic story of it all. But then even considering that there's no magic or whatever, it's like that's still Ava caught up in her own sense of she's believing her own story, maybe, that this is magic. Maybe she's truly lost her mind and believes herself to be the Golden Witch, and so she's using the tool of magic as like an escape fantasy for herself, the same way Maria does, but instead of a coping mechanism to help her get through her terrible abuse, it's a coping mechanism to allow her to be fucking crazy and evil and kill people. So maybe that's real. Maybe none of that is even anything, that whole scene didn't happen. I mean, obviously they weren't, really fighting stakes or whatever if magic isn't real. But like, I don't know. If there's something to be gained from that, that's what it would be. And then also on a more general level about magic, Virgilia, who broke my heart in a million pieces, and I'm still watching you. She's my wife who hates me. She's not talking to me right now, and I miss her. She says that endless magic, the whole point was to make people happy and to bring them joy through their effort and their belief, and to ease their pains and heal their wounds. I mean, she says that pretty explicitly. That's not a big revelation on my part, but I feel like that's a big deal, and it raises the question of our Beatrice is like evil in some capacity and does love these murders, but again, Battler's like, she really was having fun with that, and that was in her own way her making herself happy. And even Ava Triss is making herself happy with these murders and with her success with the gold and everything. And is she trying to make Battler happy with this magic? And if so, then like, yeah, maybe the magic is an escape. I said some of this last time too, but like, maybe she's trying to cheer Battler up in her own way, that he's dead or whatever, is in a spirit realm, is in however this formulation of this place that the Golden Land is, or the purgatory where they are exists, and she's trying to cheer him up there, with these games that they're playing, with him having fun and getting swept into it, and then having the rug swept out from under his feet. Like, the most generous read is, does magic exist? I mean, dubiously, but to some extent it's what's this meta narrative, this game board isn't just a separate thing, it's part of the thing. So maybe magic is just to make people happy, and it's a very simple answer, and it's obvious, but also maybe that's important, and it's real in that way.
Well, yeah, magic has been, I think we've said over the course of this conversation, but just to like really draw it out, magic has been both something beautiful and something horrible. Like, even within this one episode, you have Beatrice, casting her magic to heal Maria's broken rose, and we get to see, all of the terrible shit that Ava Triss pulls. Like coping mechanisms IRL, they are important and it's useful, and it can also, like, to pull a quote. I've been pulling a lot of quotes from this person, but there is someone on Twitter, one Colin Space Twinks, who is doing a Let's Play of Umineko at, I believe the Twitter at is at a recolor of himself or something like that, in reference to Battler Ushiramiya looking like a early 2000s webcomic character. All of the Ushiramiya family is focused on coping, and that, you can understand magic as a coping mechanism, as a thing that deflects and hides, the true nature of things, or, maybe the true nature, again, isn't the way to put it, but some kind of nature that you don't want to consider, that's too painful to consider. And how Battler's insistence on the existence of the 19th person up until now was also something of a coping mechanism, because he didn't want to believe it was one of his family that could do it, which ties into all the the cycles of abuse, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, there's something really interesting happening with magic here, both because of like what it is not, but also what it is, and the fact that this entire, the entire narrative doesn't exist without magic. You can't have person who was murdered talking to their supposed murderer who is also a witch without magic. And yet the entire story is premised on the denial of magic.
Can I ask a pedantic question about the final red truths?
Absolutely.
Eva Beatrice states in red, Eva was with you the whole time, so committing a crime was impossible for her. Why?
Because Battler was keeping his eyes on Ava the entire time and was suspicious of her the entire time. So under Battler's supervision, who again is kind of the player character for Battler in the meta world, he was watching Ava the entire time, and he knows with 100% certainty, because it was stated in red, that she did not commit a crime in that time.
But like, Eva kills Battler.
Yeah, later.
Yeah, later. So what I'm saying is, like, what stops Eva from just offing Nanjo, having Battler go, oh, you're the culprit, and then her turning around and just offing Battler?
Because the period of time that Ava Beatrice is talking about, I think we should hang on, let's do a little setup.
I think the order of events is they come into the mansion to find George. They and the other two, Kraus and Natsui. They find Natsui and Kraus. They go into the mansion to find George. They find George. There's a tussle between Jessica and Ava, and then Jessica is blinded. The now blind Jessica wanders off with Nanjo to be treated, and they're in a different room. Ava and Battler continue to search the mansion for unknown reasons, honestly. And then Nanjo somehow dies next. After that, Battler dies, and Jessica assumedly dies after that as well. The end credits say she went to the Golden Land, but whatever.
Yeah, it says that she and Kanan spent their last moments together or something like that. So I think what Ava Beatrice is saying is that the period of time in which Nanjo was killed does not intersect in any way with a period of time that Ava could have committed any crime.
But that's just Nanjo.
But that's just Nanjo, yeah.
Okay.
Here's my pedantic question about these murders. We all agree that Ava is, like, definitively, like, hashtag solved. She did this. We don't know exactly how, but she was the culprit, right?
Yes, that is more or less confirmed, I think.
I'm not 100% on that.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm not totally either, but I'll sort of accept it for now because I just have so much else going on that I'm like, okay, so accepting that, did she fucking kill her own son? Did Ava kill George?
I figured this one out. You're gonna like this. No,
oh man,
you're gonna hate it.
Clapping about a dead son.
Yay! Well, yeah. I mean, George is George.
The good news is it's George. So okay. So the scene, we're at the guest house, which is a much better place to shack up. I'm happy they went there this time. So they're at the guest house. And on the bottom floor is Kraus, Natsuhi, and Ava. Ava goes to go make coffee and allegedly comes back and they're not there. I argue Ava went and made coffee and served it to them, and they were super poisoned and died. And then she dragged them out of the house. However, what did George leave to go do?
Make coffee.
So he drank it as well, and he got poisoned and died. So then she had to deal with moving him somewhere. So she drags him. The reason I had to come up with this idea was I said, well, obviously he went to Shannon's corpse and offed himself because he was too miserable. And then Kez went, going with suicide again, are you? And I went, fuck off.
Hey,
so
remember,
I had to think more about
remember when Maria was having a tantrum and Rudolph was like, hey, do you have sedatives? And Rosa's like, oh boy, do I.
God.
Oh boy,
that's
I?
too obvious. Is that really what happened? I mean, I didn't think of it at all, but, like, that's so classy.
Yeah, if Ava poisoned them, like, there's the poison, right?
Oh my god.
I don't know if she engineered it. I think it was just a happy coincidence.
Are sedatives the kind of thing you can OD on?
You could
Or
definitely...
maybe, I guess if they're sedatives, I guess you don't even technically need to OD on them.
You just gotta knock them out and then pop them later.
The corpses said they were strangled, right?
That's true,
so
yeah.
they could have just been knocked out and then she choked them.
Yes, which then makes me wonder why George ended up dying then, because if they were just knocked out by sedatives, which I think is correct, absolutely, then how did George end up getting a wound in his stomach?
Yeah, I don't know at all about George.
Maybe he got the cup of coffee, started going upstairs with it, and ended up going out the window or something onto another fence or something and got a wound in his stomach.
Oh yeah, the
because we do still have the window as something in play.
Land on the fence and die technique.
Oh, you're going with accident again there, eh?
Well, the idea is that we know there is one window that closes silently in the household, and it is assumed that George or Nanjo, for some reason, went out that window. But what we could imagine is Ava sees George go, he gets his cup, and then for whatever reason he's like, I'm gonna go get Shannon, but he had already taken a sip, he passes out on the way out the window and dies that way. And then Ava, locks the window behind him, because someone needs to lock the window.
There's no truth saying that George was a homicide. Was there?
True.
There isn't. I don't think we really get anything about George's death.
Yeah, he just kind of...
No, we get so little about the last ones. There's so few truths. They're
Except
all
Nanjo,
dead.
which we get everything about.
We get so many bunk red truths. Like, yeah, they're true, but they don't tell us shit. She's like, all these people are dead. It's like, great, you didn't say in what order. You didn't say when. You didn't say how. You left out so much shit, and Battler was just freaking the fuck out. He's like, there's no answer on Earth for this. It's like, there's so many holes here. It's so sloppy, I can't believe it. Spiderweb is full of holes.
All right, Miss Ushiramiya, let's hear some of those holes.
I'm going to just say out loud, I couldn't figure this one out at all, so good luck.
I think there's more than one killer.
Yeah, definitely.
Because
there were at least 2.
There were only 18 people on the island.
3 games. Eva probably didn't kill everyone in the first 2, and Eva Beatrice didn't exist till after the first Twilight, right?
Exactly. That's what I was going to bring up.
So the first 6 murders were someone else.
Okay, but here, this goes back to an old and unsolved and difficult meta question, which is, are these all the same mystery that we're getting different parts of, or are these parallel universes? Because the last time I asked this question, the definitive fucking answer was parallel universes, so I've been operating on parallel universe logic and treating these as their own thing, so if you're about to tell me they're all the same, I'm gonna scream.
So based on the epilogue and Bernkastel bringing up the fragments that exist in Higurashi, they're all parallel universes.
Yeah, they're all parallel universes because Board 1, Maria survived, went on to write a tell-all about what happened there, and then they found her jaw.
Yes.
Okay.
World 2, everyone was dead. World 3, Eva escaped, ended up for seemingly shitty reasons just destroying this one girl's life. Like, they have to be 3 different universes, or, like, is Beatrice creating these universes whenever she makes the games?
It seems like...
I don't know how it all works.
She is setting the pieces up to set things in motion.
It seems like in When They Cry Logic, parallel universes, there's, like, 1 or more agents who are aware that they're in an alternate timeline and are altering things in a way so things end differently. Because that's how it happens in Higurashi, right? Like, Rika is aware that time is looping for her.
It's Groundhog Day.
And you might say that even if Battler's piece, like the piece Battler that exists on the game board, can't act like he knows that, things are going on, Battler can still operate him as someone who, has played other
There's
games.
multiple times Beatrice in the game turns and looks at the camera and laughs at Battler. So
Yes,
if we take that
true.
at face value, then like at least whatever pieces that present as Beatrice, if they exist or not, are aware and are altering things.
I don't think Battler can control Battler.
Yeah, it seems like Battler, like there's sometimes where Battler, like it pulls back and Battler's like, why did I say that? I'm so fucking stupid. So I don't think he can control himself.
Well, I say things and then I think to myself, why did I say that? I'm so fucking stupid.
I do think Battler can put a thought into in-game Battler's head. It's a hard thing to do, but like he can't just go out of turn and be like, well, I'm going to immediately counter this so that I can say I know that this is actually what's going on, because he's still it's so complex and so strange. Because the way Battler sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to say during the second Twilight of the second game, Meta Battler moves Peace Battler to like ask questions of other people and to like search Canon's pocket, doesn't he? Or search not Canon, but Jessica's pocket.
Beatrice goads him into pushing forward to figure out more about what's going on with Shannon and Canon, because ultimately it just makes the situation even more confusing. And it's a move that he makes, but it's pressured by her. But he is still able to put the ideas and thoughts into Little Battler. I'm going to go with Little Battler for the one in game.
Battler the pawn. Baby
Battler. Oh, regular Battler's a pawn too. What you were saying, Caelum, about referencing Higurashi, one of the ideas from Higurashi that I think we might consider is the idea of shared rules between the game board. In Higurashi, this is styled as Rule X, Rule Y, and Rule Z, which I don't remember what those specifically were in Higurashi. But it was the idea that the pieces can move differently each time. And like, in Higurashi, it was like someone different will get infected by the Hinamizawa syndrome each time. Or it's like, maybe Shion comes back, maybe Tepe comes back. But that between all of those differences, there are certain rules that are always the same, that are kind of running behind the scenes, and that those are the things that you as the When They Cry player are trying to guess at. So maybe that could be something useful here. We've got 3 whole games now. Does anyone notice any commonalities or uncommonalities between all 3 of them?
I stopped paying attention to the commonalities because we were talking about how it was parallels. I mean, Rosa is the most on top of things in all 3 of these. I don't know. I mean, she plays second fiddle, but she solves the problem too.
She
in this
does,
one.
yeah. She's just a little bit slower.
Yeah.
And then she gets killed about it.
Maria she's always the messenger, and it said in
Yes.
English, the messenger.
Mhm.
Which is tragic in a narrative sense and unfortunate for
I do
her.
think it's interesting that this is the first game where Maria doesn't survive until basically the end, and it's also the first game where the killer isn't explicitly Beatrice.
Yeah, and when you tie that in with the constant nods in the game to Maria and Beatrice having some kind of relationship that predates this family conference, I think there's something
I think they're friends.
very interesting there. Oh, they're they're buddies.
Yeah.
We see this is the game where we most see, like, Rosa isn't around this time, so we get to see it's just Beatrice and Maria just kicking it in the rose garden, and like Beatrice does some magic and Maria's like, wow, dope, and it's very cute.
Yeah.
It's so cute. It's so good. And Beatrice is like Maria. She's like a grown-up Maria in the same sense.
Or
She's
maybe
just his child.
She is a grown-up Maria.
Are you telling me Maria
Dun,
killed all
dun,
these people?
dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Do you think Maria wouldn't do it if it
Okay,
were,
she would do it, but you know.
There's a magical ceremony. Of course she's gonna do it.
I can't on fundamental grounds. I can't suspect Maria for a thing, but I do believe this time there were multiple murderers. I think someone set up the first half before Ava found the gold. I mean, obviously with the sextuplet locked room, good for them. That was a fun little fucking disaster that obviously did nothing. And then Ava finds the gold, loses her mind, and kills Rosa and kills Maria. I don't know. Hideyoshi and Kyrie and Rudolph get into a fight, and Hideyoshi kills one of them, and then they kill each other in what you say moment. And then George.
Natsui.
Krasanatsui, poison, definitely poison. Just that's an easy one. Or Eva just I mean, who fucking Eva killed them? It was Eva and Krasanatsui, and those two are dumber than bricks. I mean, they're the two stupidest characters in the series. They're incapable, and that's why I love them. And George is the big question mark for me.
I'm still super wary of George just because he beat it's either Genji or Nanjo in chess, and he's like, "Yeah, you let me win though," and I'm like, "Nah, dude, that's."
He could. I mean,
George Thinky.
Him, mom, and dad could have all been working together after she found the gold. It's not unthinkable, and that things went wrong, and Hideyoshi got singled off because Kyrie figured out that he was complicit in all of this, and then they all killed each other. And then what happened to George is, I mean, that's a big question mark too. I guess it's possible he got shot in that whole scuffle if it happened at a different time and they didn't know of his whereabouts at the time.
The classic.
He was out there too, and he got caught in the crossfire, and then he crawled in there to die with Shannon because he would just fucking do that.
I'm pretty sure George was seen to be alive by multiple people after all of that happened, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
That's true.
How would you define the sentence, the culprit who killed Nanjo was neither Battler nor Eva nor Jessica? Does that imply it can't be any single one of them?
Well, any combination of them, I think, is what it means.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I guess you could argue that... No, you can't argue that Battler and Ava did it together, because...
Battler is explicitly stated not to be the culprit.
Yeah. It's a pickle.
You know, everyone is dead, everyone's alive. Yeah, the most damning thing, I think, is this thing that I know has been tormenting Matt. Nanjo's death was a homicide. It was a direct method of murder, not a trap. A weapon was readied, the culprit appeared openly before Nanjo's eyes, and as they both looked at each other's faces, the culprit killed him. Which is wonderful.
There's also the red right above it. Neither Jessica nor Battler nor Eva is the culprit. Like, okay.
And everyone else is dead. Those other 15 are dead. That is also confirmed in red.
What if Nanjo's been dead the whole time?
Oh my god! This is the most elaborate
ghost?
weekend at Birdie's there's ever been.
So there's one other thing that I want to bring up. I don't have an answer for Nanjo's death, not even a little bit. But there is one other death in this that is also kind of a big question mark, and that is the sixth person in the first Twilight.
Yes, that's what I wanted to ask.
Battler asked her to say in red that that person wasn't killed in homicide, and Beatrice is about to, and then is shut up by that guy. And it's a very strange moment because it's very clear that she was about to say it in red, and there's no reason for her to really lie about it, and it makes you definitely have the impression that that person was not killed via homicide. Or
no, they were killed via homicide, right?
But then that means that they have the same exact strange, impossible death as the final piece in this. So these two deaths, however they were done, I am inclined to believe are done in a similar way. Do I have proof of that? Of course not. But they're both impossible. with the information that we had provided.
Well, I mean, I have a theory that I'd like to submit, and that it was
Shut
the
up.
Golden Witch Beatrice.
Yeah, I think just Beatrice did it.
Oh, yay!
She can walk through walls.
Do you mean Beatrice, Beatrice Jr., Beatrice III, or the hot new Beatrice IV?
I mean, original flavor Beatrice, not spicy.
I have another new theory.
Uh-huh.
Nanjo's death was a homicide. Of course, it was a direct method of murder, not a trap. The weapon was ready, and he was killed with it from point-blank range in front of him. Slow-lasting poison. Now, look at the next line. They looked at...
That's not a real
Hold
thing.
They both looked at each other's faces. The culprit killed him.
So
That was then him seeing Eva again, and then going, "Oh, look at that."
Here's my theory. So he met the culprit, whoever it is, and they made out, and the culprit put a cyanide capsule in his mouth while kissing, and he died instantly.
That's so sexy. Perfect.
Well, unfortunately, they held up the weapon, so...
Yeah, they held it up and then put it in their mouth.
Oh my god.
I will definitely say that I have to agree...
What are you agreeing with me?
Izzy, do you think George accidentally killed Nanjo via coffee as well?
He didn't drink the coffee.
He was Nanjo did have coffee.
Yeah.
It's considered a
After
homicide.
George's...
Yeah.
A homicide is just by someone else's hand.
It was a direct method. I think the important part is it was a direct method of murder.
Yeah, that's really rules out the accident coffee killing.
A weapon was readied, and he was killed with it from
coffee.
point blank range, so that would eliminate
that's
the
also-
I
possibility
like your
that George
theory
did
that a
it.
clock fell on him.
Shut up.
Looked
Well,
at his face, right?
Shut up.
Unfortunately, it does say that it was a human.
Yes.
Yeah, grandfather clock. It was Kinzo.
Yeah, let me tell you about furniture. Ugh.
He was okay. Here's a question. He was really scared of the witch by that point. Magic being real or not, he was scared shitless about it.
Sure.
He was like, "Ooh, woogie boogie." And did he like hallucinate it and try to like kill her and kill himself? So it like counted as
It's
a
a homicide.
homicide.
I don't think that would
He
count.
looks and sees the portrait of Beatrice, goes, "Whoa," and has a heart attack and dies.
Oh,
Like something like
Christ.
that, because he's talking about his frail body the whole time. I mean, it is a weapon.
That's true. And that's the
point-blank
most,
range,
I've got
but-
to say, Anna, you actually referencing something that has come from the book so far is the most sensible logic that anyone has displayed in this discussion.
I've got better logic.
It's not really about sense, but thank you. This book isn't about sense.
When the gun was discharged, blinding Jessica, the bullet entered Nanjo.
Stop!
But Ava and Jessica
did
are
not
innocent.
kill her. Ava is not the culprit.
She did
Or
not.
she did not kill. I should say that she did not kill Nanjo.
Yeah, she
Ava
killed
is
fucking
pretty
everyone
cleanly-
else.
Yeah, the culprit.
She didn't do it. The gun did it.
Stop! I'm calling an end to this podcast.
People don't kill people, guns kill people.
Oh my
duh.
god.
Oh, horrible. Perfect. Take us home.
So before we fully wrap up, I would be remiss if we did not spend at least the last 5 minutes or so talking about the one, the only Angie Yoshirimiya, who has finally entered the narrative.
Jen, how do you feel?
My wonderful
I love
daughter
this
that
bitch
I
so
love.
much. I'm so excited for everyone to
love
meet her.
Angie.
Oh, I love her. When she showed up with the red hair, I was like, is this Battler's sister? And then she said, it's useless. Useless! I was like, yeah. Yeah, it is.
I think the funniest thing in all of the ending is that Battler sees someone come in who has the exact same very unnatural hair color that Battler does and goes, "Who the fuck is this?"
God,
he's so stupid.
Battler fucking moron confirmed.
From Battler's perspective,
Well,
Anya's still like 8.
Yeah, she's like 6. So I have specifically avoided bringing up this entire time any of the times that have happened all throughout all 3 of these books, Kyrie bringing up that she has a daughter who is not present. I was waiting for anyone else to say
I've
something.
only noticed it happening once.
It happens. Like very early on in episode 1, like Rosa says, "Where's Angie?" And she's like, "Oh, she was sick, so she's not here." She says in episode 2 to Rosa, as we're both mothers of daughters, something, and then Angie comes up
and that's
multiple
when I messaged
times.
you and said Battler trans real.
Battler
Which is still
trans,
true.
That's unrelated.
Which is still true.
Battler, yes.
Everyone in the story is
God.
trans. That's not important to the story.
Unfortunately,
Goda is not trans.
Ava is cis. She hasn't figured it out yet.
Ava's super had trans energy.
Yeah, they're right though.
how's explain?
I'm glad we're spending this time talking about Angie like you wanted.
Explain!
I was ready. I'm so. I think she's cool, and I'm ready to know about her.
Yeah,
I'm ready to learn. I feel like I said to Jen, we didn't have someone who was like truly depressed and disillusioned and fed the fuck up yet in this story, because everyone has some sort of stakes they're attached to or some sort of personal attachment. Even Battler is like rah about his whole cause. He's super emotional the whole time despite trying his hardest not to be, crying all the fucking time. And straight up doesn't give a shit. You can tell just from taking one look at her. So that is going to change the whole game in terms of how the story progresses, in terms of not being able to pull the wind and the sun trick again, in terms of everything. I feel like it's a big deal. We finally got a depressed thought on the team.
I have some observations on the epilogue. One, I think it's really interesting how Ava got everything she wanted and it ended up sucking really bad, and she decided to torture a child for like 12 years because of it.
Not just that, she specifically engaged in the same kind of predatory business practices that Hideyoshi's company was under duress from back during the family conference of 1986. Like, it's just, she absolutely becomes every horrible thing that she has ever experienced.
She's trapped in
and
her coma.
I think Bernkastel is playing 4D chess with Angie. I think Bernkastel is specifically with her ability to travel through fragments that she described in the epilogue. She found the worst Angie, the most miserable Angie, and picked her, and is lying about there being no fragment that she knows of where everyone comes out alive.
Ah, really?
Yeah, definitely. You can't because again, her talent is that she's broken. She's #broken. She doesn't give a shit about anything. She's unflappable because of her emotional deadness. So if you gave her hope and started to teach her how to feel too early, then that would really be a big problem and lessen her power, you know?
Yeah. No, I definitely think Bernkastel is already acting in bad faith regarding Angie. But I am so
that's her specialty.
Excited to read episode 3 and see how episode 4 and see how that happens.
We just read episode 3.
I love to read episode 3
right,
again.
I better start it back over. Okay, my days as a child, I broke the vase.
Yeah, that's Angie.
Yeah,
If that's Angie, it makes sense
if
he says grandfather. If she says grandfather.
I thought it was so messed up how it went to all this effort in the question mark to be like, yeah, Eva just became this incredibly spiteful person toward Angie and did everything in her power for the rest of her life to ruin her. And I'm just like, that's mean.
Hang on a minute.
It was hella depressing, this whole thing.
Yeah, it's a very, to use the parlance of the visual novel, you know, it's definitely a bad end. Everything so far has been bad end after bad end.
We almost had a good one.
To pull it back a little bit, and I know this is kind of a weird point to shove this in, but there was one bit of writing in this episode that had me actually openly sobbing because it was such a beautiful visual to me. And that was when Beatrice was taking George into the land of the dead. And it's not George going to land of the dead. I don't care where George is. It's when Beatrice and George call out Shannon's name, and all the dead who are there, they start jumping over each other and scrambling because they need to find her, because there's just one person who has a chance to find joy and get back to it, and they're all going to work together, and it's just this beautiful moment of pure humanity in a world devoid of it. And it's only a little glimpse, but God, it just really got me.
It's really good. The
It's
writing
really
in this novel
good.
is
It's really
fantastic.
sweet.
The urgency behind their hunger to find her and
It's good.
make a happily ever after.
It's good, Matt.
It's good.
It's real good.
And then she got shot.
And then she and George get shot. Like, all of the terrible things that happen in these novels to these characters, I don't think you get the sense that it is because Ryukishi, like, hates any of them. Even the pieces of shit, like George or Shiramiya.
I don't think Ryukishi understands that George sucks.
I think he thinks he sucks for different reasons.
Yeah. I think he thinks that George has worked really hard to move past his suck-assness, and it's still kind of lingering there a little bit, but now he's going to be a super good male wife, and he's gonna get it.
Yeah, I can't wait to sleep with my 16-year-old child wife.
It's the fucking pits.
My child wife servant.
Who has been serving my family since she was 6 years old. Very normal.
Very normal. What is not the pits is all the wonderful time I've spent with everyone here. Thank you so much for
I don't know if I believe that, but
being in
thank
the
you.
podcast.
Thanks for
this time.
inviting me.
Yay.
Yeah, of course. We will certainly continue to have you on.
Yes, I have so many opinions about episode 4.
Oh, me too. Yeah. The quick very, very quick preview. Episode 4, I think I've said this to someone before, but episode 4 was probably the episode that most deeply was not my personal favorite, but was probably the one that most deeply affected me, like when I was a kid.
Yeah, I fully agree with
stuff.
that. I think episode 4 like changed me as a person in ways that I didn't really understand for a long time. It is
100%.
It is a really intense episode, and I'm very interested in revisiting it, especially as an adult where I have had a lot more life experiences than, like, I think I was like 14 when I read it, so I didn't understand why it affected me so strongly until it was a lot like reflecting on it now, and now I'm very interested in revisiting it.
Well, I'm curious what that could even mean, because I feel like I've suffered everything I could possibly suffer. I don't know what's left to learn.
Oh, Anna.
No, I feel similarly. Seeing Beatrice be so... I like Beatrice.
I like Beatrice too. And I like having you all on this podcast. Thank
Beatrice
you so
2
much.
is okay, but Beatrice 4 is
Piece of shit.
We gotta get to the end so we can...
We're scrambling. Maybe the music is fading up right now. If I'm doing my job, it probably is.
Oh, wait, it's fading back down a bit.
No,
It's getting louder.
Come back. Thank you all so much for listening to the podcast. We will be back next month, probably, with another one of these. As always, you can follow us at Golden Truths Pod, both on Twitter and Tumblr. We have a website that is not really anything, but we have one at goldentruths.net, and we have an email address that you can write into if you want to write to us for some reason. If you have listened all the way to the end of this podcast for some reason, you can write to us at goldentruthspod@gmail.com. Izzy, where can people find you?
Oh, you can find me at izzytimestream.tumblr.com and Twitter. I don't know how the URLs on Twitter go, but I'm izzytimestream on that too. And you can mostly find me Mondays and Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time at twitch.tv/izzytimestream. Come follow me and maybe subscribe.
Always on that grind.
Always on the grind.
Matt, where can people find you?
You can find me around the internet under the name Your Paper Pal, usually. On Tumblr, I'm Your Paper Pal. On Twitter, I'm Your Paper Pal, because I guess that's a more common name than I thought it was when I came up with it. And occasionally, I do guest at izzytimestream.twitch.tv.
Whoa!
No, twitch.tv/izzytimestream.
The synergies. Caelum, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter. I'm Twitter user HiveHum. I do literally nothing else, so good luck.
Well, I don't know that any of us, besides Izzy, have a lot of other projects going.
I stream on Twitch sometimes. I'm playing Xenoblade Chronicles.
That's a good game.
You can find me retweeting good tokusatsu gifs at Dai Henshin, DAIHENSHIN on Tumblr, or at Kebs, KEBBBBS on Twitter.
You'll find me sulking in my chair until the next episode, until Beatrice says sorry and gives me a hug.
Anna will be sitting at the table waiting for her opponent in this game to draw up the next board and get down to it.
Literally.
Until next time, thank you so much for listening, and rest in peace, my beloved witch, Beatrice.
That's a cute ending.
Yay!
The extra B's and Kebs all stand for Beatrice.
They do, every single one, even the first B.
Each individual Beatrice.
That's how many Beatrices are in Umineko. That's how many B's
Oh
and Kebs.
god, I wish.
Well, this is actually something I didn't get a chance to bring up, but we actually have had a new Beatrice every episode. We had the original Beatrice in the first one, then we had High Schooler Beato in the second one, and then we had Ava Beatrice in this one. And assumedly in the next one we'll have
And also
Beatrice,
original Beatrice.
There's actually been 4 Beatrices so far.
Yeah, well, if you count Virgilia as a Beatrice, she really only shows up.
Yeah, shit.
And then
5, if not
there's
6.
Stuck in the Mansion Beatrice who died.
No, that's 5 because there's whatever Beatrice that was like.
There's original Beatrice and then homunculusized Beatrice, which is 2. And
there's
then
the witch Beatrice.
Would that also count as the
there's Virgilia, and then there's Eva Beatrice. That's 5.
Virgilia. And
I'm
Angie.
still
Angie
recording.
is a golden witch.
Angie Beatrice.
Oh yeah, she's the Golden Witch. I
Yeah,
forgot
well,
about
I'm
that.
still
We're all still
recording
recording.
too. I don't know.
Okay, I'm stopping now.
Maybe
This is the good bonus
I'll squirrel
content.
some time.
Yeah.
I gotta go put a baby to bed.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Yeah,
Bye,
good night, everyone.
Matt.
Thank you. Bye. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to say nope, not yet. We're going to say a time on time dot and we're all on time dot is, which is this synchronized clock. And so I'm going to say clap on like 48 or whatever. Nope. And
Can we do 2 claps?
Yeah, we can do 2 claps.
I want to do 3.
Oh, we can do 3 claps.
Thank you, Jen.
Just
So
keep
we're-
clapping as we record this episode.
I swear to God, do not. So I'm going to say some times, and we are all going to clap during those 3 times, which I will use as a synchronization point for syncing up all of our recordings.
Okay,
Jen.
that's really a great way to do that.
It is. I've lifted it from other podcasts I listen to that include the
Don't
podcast
reinvent the
clap as
fucking
bonus
reel,
material.
honestly.
That's what I'm saying.
Everybody mute your phones.
I did.
Oh, I need
Now
to
you're
mute.
playing Mahjong
So I have
on
an
it while
alarm
we're
that
doing
happens
it.
at exactly 1 hour and 52 minutes from now. It's to feed my cat, and if I don't do that within 3 minutes, she will kill me. So
Okay.
I remember
please
that.
plan for a pause at
Yeah, definitely.
10
I've
p.m.
been-
EST.
Yeah, I've been meaning it'll be good to have a very set break to work into. Also, 2 of our members have a hard out at exactly 8 PST or 11 for you. So
Okay.
once we get there, that is the end of the podcast, and so we just got to squeeze in as much as we can. So
If we really, really have something to talk about, I do not mind you guys continuing to talk without me and
yeah,
being here at all. So
okay. So for our clap, let's clap on 20, 25, and 30.
I lost time dot.
Okay, well, hang on. Someone wasn't ready,
No,
so
keep
we're
going,
going.
keep going.
No,
I get
we're not.
nervous.
I didn't clap. You piece of shit. Everyone, stop clapping! Don't you dare!
I'm good, I'm sorry.
You piece
ready.
of shit.
I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready.
Okay,
I'm ready.
we are actually for real going to clap on 45, 50, and 55.
Okay.
All right, spicy.
That was out of sync for me.
Yeah, it was all out of sync. We'll go this close enough. Stop. So I don't think there's really anything else to say. I'm going to do this little intro. I'm going to read us down. I'm going to ask you, Caelum, a little bit about your stuff. As you could see on the outline that only one other person is on. That's fine.
can you repaste the outline just so I don't have to scroll back up through everything we posted?
Oh, you mean all the
scrolling, I'll post
Italian
it. I'm
politics?
scrolling, I'll
Or
post
sorry,
it.
Irish politics?
Don't
whatever.
fucking mix up Ireland and Italy. What's your
We'll
problem?
They're
kill each
basically the
other.
same thing.
Yeah, the Italians talk with their hands. The Irish do not use their hands as they dance.
So I'm going to kind of like shepherd us through this outline, but if you have like, if you feel a natural like, pull in the conversation towards something or another, feel free to follow that. Especially for this episode, which is coming in hot.
When you say our names at the start, do we go like hi, or are you just gonna straight up read down our names?
Oh, I'm going to say everyone's names, and after I say your name, if you could do like a hey or a hi or a funny catchphrase or whatever
Bazinga.
occurs to you.
Don't plug your
Okay.
Twitch channel.
Well, now it's a bit. Now it's a bit, and it's been going.
Mhm.
Oh, any
you, Jen.
questions?
Nah.
Rad. Okay, now's the part of the pre-show where I psych myself up to do the intro. Really warm here today.
Yeah, it's gross. I'm done with it. Go back to
It's going
winter.
to be that
You
time of
piece
year.
of garbage.
Kill Matt for that statement. Died on the first one.
Hey, what's my fucking last name?
Matthew Spring.
Matt Summers.
You know how little spring means to me? As soon as the trees start fucking, my body falls to pieces and I become a blubbering mess who can't think or do anything. So if you thought I was making a lot of sense before, get ready for as we move forward into the
Hey,
spring
Matt.
months.
I just
Shut
want you
up.
to know, just like in the magic versus reality debates, I'm on your side here.
Thank you.
Winter is better than summer.
The
Twitch.tv/Izzy timestream.
Okay, shut up. Everyone shut up. Shut up. Menacing you.
Alright, I'm gonna go feed my cat. I'll be right back.
Alright,
Yeah, let's
great.
get water.
Yeah, I'm also
To the
gonna get
toilets.
water.
Bye.
Ugh.
Just me and the world. It's, Adrian Vecht said. Classic 1937 novel, Watchmen. This is my chance on the podcast to plug Natsuhi. I'm just here to say Natsuhi reigns supreme. You know, if you accept Natsuhi as the Golden Witch, she'll save you. She'll save all of us. You just have to accept her into your life and your heart and believe in her, and all of your troubles will melt away. Thank you.
Okay, I'm back.
Welcome back.
So how's everyone's day been?
Mostly it's been this.
Yeah.
You know, I had work. That doesn't bear mentioning. And now we're here. And I'm having fun.
Oh man, you're all West Coast, right? This is just early evening for you.
Woo!
And, well, yeah.
I'm
it's
east.
7. And, you know, I get up at 6 in the morning. So it's bumping up against bedtime here.
Okay. That's valid.
It is still sunny out, though.
Oh
It's
god.
at that time of year where it's sunny so fucking late, and I'm living. The sun is beaming directly into my eyeballs because of a very reflective window, and I'm accepting the pain. It's a joyous pain.
I hate the time from 6:15 p.m. to 7 p.m. Because the sun streams directly onto my monitors, and I can't do anything about it.
Oh
so
my
I just
God,
can't
isn't it
use a
the worst
computer
when
for
you
that
can't
hour.
see- yeah, you curtains. You
I
can
have a
curtains about
curtain,
it.
but the curtain doesn't close all the way, so there's this tiny little streak that just slowly moves across my.
There's your problem. You gotta sew them shut.
I don't know how to sew on a baby.
Yeah, me neither. I'm
I need
sorry.
to take some.
Can I
You
get
get,
lessons with
you get a
Chester.
pointy bit and you put a little bit on it. And then
Yeah,
it-
literally. Shoot your sewing gun. God, it's stylish. I'll give them credit for that. It's a fun little magic excuse for.
I think I'm the only
disappearing
person who likes
bodies
the
with ease.
Chesters. I'm sorry.
I like them.
I don't not like them at all. They're just so. I mean, they're so basic. Even the stakes have more
I have a
development.
take on
No,
that,
wait,
but
the
I'll
two
wait
of
till
them
we
are like.
resume
Tee.
on why they're like that.
Well, I feel like we just met them. All we know is that the one loves to kill and the one is nervous and does whatever
Like,
she's told.
I was super lukewarm on the Seven Sisters at first. Like, I was like, what the fuck is
Really?
this? This is stupid. And
I
then
was-
I was
I
like,
got-
oh, I actually love these seven.
I got like the Homestuck reaction where like because I've read Homestuck, whenever I see a group of characters all introduced at once along a theme, I want to die.
But see, I'm the same way, but it fills me with life. I loved, at first glance, I was like, fuck yes, we finally got this happening.
Yeah,
They
we-
all have the same outfit, they all have the
They've
same
got the
clothes, they all
trolls.
have the same expression, they've just got different, yes, exactly. And I'm not lying about who I am, so I love that.
Beatrice,
I love
save me from this hell. Shine your light upon my
that.
face.
Listen, I never even got to say, but the moment in episode 2 where Goda is like, I'm blocking the door, I'm big and scary, and magic can't stop us through a door, and an arm just appears, they just render one arm of one stake,
It's
it just goes
really
like
good.
to poke him. That's the fucking funniest moment in the whole series so
That's-
far. That changed the game for me, and we owe the stakes for that.
That's also something that wasn't translated all to the PS3 version. Because it's just
Oh,
like
it's-
a third of the character art instead of just the arm. So it's like way less funny.
No, that's so sad. It's so funny. Anyway, that made me love the. I was like, these are the funniest bitches on earth.
Yeah, they're so fucking good.
and they're so pathetic and they're earnest. Oh my god, the moment where she stayed in place to protect her lady, even though she could have easily dodged, and she did her job and protected Beatrice. I couldn't fucking believe that.
Yeah, that was
That
more
made
than
me hate
Beatrice.
Beatrice
Yeah,
more.
that was more than Beatrice deserved.
Definitely. That's
You
the
people-
whole point of that.
You people talking about Umineko while we're not on pod.
I'm sorry, we were just talking
Hey,
about the stakes
hey,
and how
I'm still
sexy and
recording.
funny and
I'm
cool
still
they
recording
are.
too. Oh, okay.
It's a nice
Yeah, I've
secret
certainly
surprise for
peaked.
you to come back to when you edit.
Oh,
Yeah,
wonderful! I
you
love
can
having
feed
to
us back
think.
in on this
Think about it,
discussion.
Kevs. We're not just saying we like Umineko when you're around. You can tell now. Like, we're talking
Wow.
about it when you're not here.
You really like it? Gosh.
Yes, of course. I cried a lot at it.
Oh my god.
Don't make fun of me.
No, I'm not. I also like Umineko a lot. That's why I forced you all to read it at gunpoint.
Wow, I just happened to read it like unrelated to everything else.
That's true. You were just sucked into the vortex.
Took
Yeah,
you
I
long
just, like,
enough,
Naturally.
Anna.
Decided what I can't even remember why. I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna finish Umineko. And then Matt's like, oh, I'm reading Umineko for a podcast. I'm just finished episode 2. And then here I am.
And then
I was
here
held at
you
gunpoint.
are.
I was like, I'm gay for Beatrice, and then Kevs was like, and Cock's gun, and you're gay for this podcast, right?
The podcast came later, but there was gayness involved, as there are in all good things.
All right, good news. I dug way back through all my messages to Kebs and I found it.
Tell me.
Found a what? Oh yeah, that was great.
God, I love that
Yeah,
so
that's a good
much.
It
Yes,
just
oh
looks like
my
it's
God,
resting the
yes.
arm on the shoulder. That's what really sounds really like. How you
Yes,
doing,
she
bro?
just
He
reaches
hates
in.
it.
Boink.
Oh
Yes,
gosh.
That's the best moment in the series so far.
It's
Okay.
so funny.
I'm a Goda apologist. I really like him.
God.
I'm sorry.
No go
You are
to
on
apology.
an island.
I don't think he's good. I just like him.
You're
Oh, I
trapped
also-
in a
I also-
mansion.
Thank you! Thank
Named
you! I
Goda.
like Goda too.
I also just saw this picture of Eva in the PS3 version, and it's scary.
Yeah,
it's
I-
not
it's-
nothing.
I-
it's
It's
not
scary.
nothing.
If the only release of Umineko that existed was the PS3 release, I would think that it was extremely good. The problem with the PS3 release is that you can compare it to the original and know that it doesn't super
Isn't
hold
extreme.
up well compared to the original.
Yeah, It's
Totally.
a downgrade. It's a downgrade.
It's just a much more mass market thing, which makes sense, but
Yeah.
I'll always prefer weird.
It's art that's more
doujin.
technically proficient in that, like, someone has probably one or more of the illustrators who worked on this have probably taken a class at a community college at least once, maybe more than Ryukishi has. But I think it suffers a lot else in that respect because you lose that kind of like outsider earnestness to the illustrations.
Absolutely.
We're still on fucking break, and I'm talking about this.
Oh, that's okay.
Well-
We've talked about outsider earnestness before. Don't worry.
We can make a comparison to something non-Umineko, like the anime adaptations of anime's One Punch Man and Mob Psycho 100,
Yeah,
where in one of them they used the like prettied up art, and in the other one they inspired the animation after the original art.
yeah.
and
That's
that
because there's
one
no remake for
It's fucking
way
awesome.
Mob Psycho.
It's way
yeah,
better.
it's way better. I was really disappointed by the One Punch Man anime adaptation, and I haven't read One Punch Man. I just didn't think the adaptation was very good.
First season was all right. The
I didn't
second,
even watch the second
because
season.
I didn't
yeah,
either.
the first season at least preserves the joke from the prettied up version, where it is like incredible, like super technically proficient, like stunning splash screens and stuff for this dude who is doing one single punch. Like that comes across in the first season, but the second season it loses all of that.
I need to read
That
Mob
joke
Psycho.
doesn't work anymore, so the series doesn't work anymore because the series is just that joke.
Yeah.
Yay.
I really need
can
to
talk
read
about
Mob Psycho.
how-
That's something I know I'd love. I just haven't gotten around to it because I have commitment
Yeah.
issues. I didn't even finish
I
the
feel
anime.
All right, let's bring this podcast home, team.
Yeah.
Yes, so okay.